is a child navigating challenges we may not always see. May this moment of silence remind us of our shared responsibility to create schools where every student feels safe, supported, connected, and valued. And the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Fire evacuation. In the unlikely event of an emergency, you can exit through those back doors or out these sides and down the steps and out the door. Ms. Lawler, roll call.
Board Chair Pickett.
Here.
Mr. Anderson.
Here and amazing.
Ms. Broculio.
Here.
Mrs. Cushman.
Here.
Mrs. Gerard.
Here.
Mr. Gauss.
Here.
Mrs. Kiner.
Here.
Mr. Kober.
Here.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce.
Here. And I'm going to pass it to you, Steve, first, because there is a board guest that we were anticipating tonight, but there is an unanticipated things happen, and I'm going to pass it to you to start us off before we roll to our next board guest.
Thank you very much. Yes, so we had originally planned to also have with us this evening Chef Gradowski, and the folks from the culinary team over at the high school. Unfortunately, spring being as busy as it is, they were not able to attend. The kids just are sort of going everywhere, and with him and his own family and his kids going everywhere, they couldn't make it. But he did give me a little blurb because he wanted to be able to give you folks an update. So his email reads that our Enfield culinary team placed first at states this year with their smoked salmon sushi roll, Wagyu beef matcha noodles, bok choy stir fry, and strawberry mochi. They traveled out to Baltimore and competed against 48 other schools across the country in a tough competition, using 2 butane burners and only 60 minutes to prepare 6 plates of high-end cuisine. Although they placed 40th, their teamwork and their determination gave them an opportunity of a lifetime. The Enfield Culinary Disney team placed 29th at the Cook Around the World competition at Disney, and as they competed against 84 other teams, including schools across the country. They placed 8th overall with a random destination, which was Asian. They created 12 appetizers and entree plates, including sweet and sour garlic chicken salad and spicy chicken noodles. They had 90 minutes to prepare the plates and 10 minutes to research recipes to create. Chef Duff Goldman was a guest judge and gave a speech on the life story of his start as a famous baker. Overall, the students worked well as a team, and they had a great time learning about different cuisines and cultures. Amelia Gonzalez placed 11th out of 18 at a state competition for Skills USA. She competed against other culinary students across the state of Connecticut, showcasing her skills with Puerto Rican dishes like chicken empanadas, chicken gazpacho salad, and Puerto Rican stew called, I'm going to butcher this, asopay de pollo. She is going on to higher education at Johnson & Wales for culinary arts and nutrition. He wants to thank everybody for all that you do for the community and supporting the students, and please know that they're working hard to deliver the best possible curriculum and opportunities for students to grow and learn inside and outside of the classroom. And if I wasn't hungry already, I'm now thoroughly starved. So that's, again, from Chef O. We miss having him coming in, but at the same time, I do want to congratulate him and all the kids for all the work that they do.
Thank you, Mr. Macchio, for that. I do know all the hard work. They keep us updated through email, but it's nice to hear that little bio. And I will give you an A for effort on all of that complicated language and all the cuisine that you shared. So please extend our gratitude to Chef O for sharing that update and to the students for their hard work. We will move into our official board guests for this evening. Last June, Karen Sargulski presented and provided an overview of adult ed programming to this board. Thank you, Mr. Macchio, for including the link to that previous presentation in our Friday update that helped us be prepared for tonight's presentation. Tonight, we welcome her back, and we also congratulate her on her recent offer for our post-secondary adult learning coordinator. Tonight, she's going to share more about the programming and the next steps aligned to our district improvement plan. Anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Macchio?
No, I just want to say congratulations to Karen. We clearly know how passionate she is about the work that she's doing. You heard that firsthand downstairs just before this meeting in the special meeting with her appointment, and we wish her the best of luck in her new role starting July 1.
Is this on? Not on? If it's red, it's on. Nice. Hi. Hi, and thank you so much for your time earlier this evening, and thank you for the honor of continuing my role in a more official status. Alyssa Blanchard is my program facilitator. She is my right-hand woman. And so together we are going to be giving our presentation on what Enfield Adult Ed is going to look like moving forward. Do I have the... Click it? Okay. All right. All right. Nice. Technology. So our program overview, we currently service 6 towns: Summers, Enfield, Suffield, Windsor Locks, Granby, and East Granby. We offer adult high school completion programs, workforce prep, driver's education, ESL, citizenship, and enrichment in our adult ed program. And we provide access and opportunity for all adult ed learners, no matter what program they are in. I'm going to actually turn over number 2 for you.
Okey-doke. Karen and I have been at this for the past 2 years, and we looked at what are our program strengths, and our number 1 strength is our staff, who have been with us the past 2 years. They're all very eager to help our students earn their diploma, learn a language. Everybody is very committed. We are thrilled to have them. We offer flexible scheduling for adult learners. What that means is we have class times throughout the day. GED example, we have 3 mornings, an afternoon, 3 evenings. ESL is offered several times during the day, morning, evening, online as well. We have what's called the Pearson VUE Test Center, and this is unique in the state. Not every adult ed agency offers this. This is the GED center for the exam. When students are ready to have qualified to take the GED exam, anybody throughout the state can come to Enfield and take it with us. It's a win-win because we're now providing a service. The state pays for them to take this exam with us, and we get a little bit of a kickback from Pearson VUE, so that's nice too. We're very excited about expanding our program beyond Enfield into our partnering towns, and we'll talk more about that in a few moments. We do have a strong completion and persistence rates. Our attendance is very good. Students are completing. This year we have a record of, is it 30 students? Yep. I think right as of this moment, 30 students graduating. The cutoff for graduation is, I think, the end of this month. We could get a couple more people to graduate. So we're super excited about that. And like I said, just growing into the regional areas, not just for our mandated programs, which is the high school completion, ESL citizenship, but also for enrichment and some other workforce opportunities as well.
All right. So our growth opportunities, as I was saying earlier, is growing our program within all of our 6 towns. And bringing back the Certified Nursing Assistant program into us, looking at the para pathways program, to making it so that we have a pool of paras that we can put into our schools. Then we would like to do GED classes online, not just face-to-face in all of our towns, to meet the needs of our clients. Our clients are very busy. They have a lot of things going on. So offering the online classes is going to be a huge help for not only us, but for them. And then we have paired with the Branford School District for adult ed for online CDP classes. CDP classes are our credit diploma program. It is the closest, like high school, They have to get 25 credits to be able to graduate. And having this online opportunity for teachers that we might not be able to get in our current program is going to be a blessing. We would like to explore becoming an educational testing service site to open up more testing opportunities for the, sorry, you made me smile. For Parapro, for Service Pro, for CNA, and make it a more one-stop shopping opportunity within our adult ed program. And the last one is,
Sorry.
the last
Learning
one
lab.
is opening up a staffed learning lab for adult ed for all of our clients. Citizenship, ESL, if they need to apply for anything, if they need to fill anything out, if any of our high school diploma programs, if they need to come in and get a little bit more studying done because they don't have a computer at home, we'd like to open up a lab that is staffed so that our students can benefit from that, which then in turn would have the community benefit.
As we said before, we're looking into opening up other classrooms throughout our regional towns. Currently, we offer GED at Windsor Locks High School. We're hoping to open ESL. I believe we're currently offering yoga there as well. They do have a very nice yoga room at Windsor Locks that we are using.
Yep.
It's very cool. Karen has already been successful in meeting and wooing the East Hartford superintendent, no, I'm sorry, East Hartford, wrong agency. East Granby, East Granby High School principal, superintendent as well. And they are on board for us having classes there. It's always very strange. They're so far from here. For many of our students, it's a 40-minute drive. We're all about breaking down the barriers, breaking down the obstacles. Let's move to where the students are. So East Granby is excited to have us bringing in GED and ESL classes for the fall. We'll also be offering a free registration site in August there as well. So we're really excited about that. And then going forward over the next 2 or 3 years, our goal is to have a satellite location in every single one of our towns offering at least GED and or ESL, if not both. Again, breaking down those barriers. Let's have sites at schools, libraries, wherever the neighborhood is, make it within walking distance, make it on a bus route. That's our plan, and we're excited for it.
The Certified Nursing Assistant Program is a program that we used to have here prior to COVID. We would like to bring it back and still partner with the nursing facilities that are in all of our towns, the urgent cares that are in all of our towns, so that our CNAs can get on-the-job training and practicum and internships to give back to the community and grow. The next one is the Para Pathways program. I spoke about it downstairs. The para community is a needs area that we, not just Connecticut, not just New England, everyone, it's a needs area. So if we open up the Para Pathways program through Enfield Adult Ed, we're not only meeting a need for us, but we're meeting a need for our community and our schools. So we are hoping to move forward with that quicker than later. And then our future is partnering with others, other communities, other businesses, other agencies within our 6 towns so that we can grow. If we don't have it, they have it. We can communicate, we can build, we can give back to not only the Enfield community, but all the communities that we service. So I think that's the next one.
Yeah,
Go right
okay.
ahead.
Well, thank you. In the past, we had an advisory board, and we currently do not. We need to have one, and we will be forming that over the summer. This is a board that includes agencies, other agencies, within the community, places, the library, the police department, Goodwill, I believe you have, sorry, I'm not from here. Work and learning. I'm learning about Enfield. And bring those people back, have meetings at least 2 or 3 times a year, find out what is the need for them, how can we help them, and how can they help us? How can we work together to build a stronger and better community? Real world training for our students. We will be offering the CNA course, the Parapro course, and other training. Find out what does the community need. Do they need kitchen help? Maybe we can offer Safe Serve Safe, sorry, in the future, and similar type programs that we can offer to help our employers find what they're looking for. Multicultural employment and just giving back to the community as well. We want people to know we are here and we are trying to help further educate our students so that they too can give back to the community and be successful within it.
So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for us?
Perfect. Thank you both so much for this information. I think it goes very well with what we had heard as an overview and thinking about where we're moving as a district. I will open it up in a moment, but I just want to share personally the importance of workforce development, meeting our learners where they're at. I value and appreciate the programming that you provide, and I'm excited to see some of these growth opportunities, particularly the CNA and the Parapro. I think we could definitely benefit from making some nice workforce development pipelines. So I appreciate hearing about that work. Any other questions, Ms. McGuire-Bruce?
You started answering it. Knocking this off. You started answering it, and I was laughing. The testing center. So my mentality is how many Praxis and MTELs and all those things I had to take. Can you open it up for testing like that? And could that potentially be an income to keep us running?
So
You
up
running?
until a couple of years ago, we did have Pearson VUE testing for testing for teachers to get an extra reading certificate, certification, math certification, 6-level certification. They changed the rules and the expectations for
Okay.
that. In order to continue down that path with Pearson VUE, we needed to open up our testing site every week. And we needed to guarantee at least 12
Gotcha.
testers
Okay.
for every cycle. We weren't in a
Couldn't do that,
position
yeah.
to do that. Adding in ETS will open up the door that way. Once we grow our program, coming back to having a full-time personnel, we could look into realistically opening up Pearson VUE again for teacher certification. When we were running it up until 2 years ago, we had people from Massachusetts come, from New York come, from Vermont come, from Connecticut.
I traveled for those.
And Pearson VUE and ETS do give us a percentage back of whatever students pay to take those exams. So opening up that door again would be phenomenal for a one-stop shopping area.
Yeah, grad school, all those tests. Okay. And then just quick comment, I am excited about the para pathways. Obviously, that is a high need for us, and the learning lab and facilitating for ML students and making sure that they have access to the resources they need for that. It sounds great. And breaking down the barriers. I think you said that, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Mr. Gauss.
Thank you, and it was nice to meet you earlier. And I had almost the exact same question as Kelsey, but while you were speaking, I took a look at what's available, and oh my, it is an entire cadre of testing and everything else, and that really would be great if that could expand. I know for even in my career, there are all kinds of certifications that are covered there. And then another thing that is not a comment to you, but a comment to the general public about something that you presented, because you've focused on this quite a bit, is the CNA program. That is a lot of young people don't understand. That is a huge and amazing part-time job for when you're going to school because the hours are so flexible. I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Cushman?
It's a delight to see you both again. I appreciate you being here. And just wanted to share that when I, as the adult ed liaison, when I called you to come in for a visit and just to kind of get an idea of what the program's about, they prepared a report for me. And it was just, I think I spent a couple hours with you. You know, it just very thorough. And you're just, your vision, your passion for the program is just contagious. And it's exciting to have you both working together. Just thinking, though, about how for our teachers, and the schools, how important professional development is for them. What do you offer for your staff of teachers?
Right now, we have very little, only because of time. Up until just a few moments ago, I was 20 hours or less. Alyssa is 20 hours or less. Everyone is part-time. So when we get together and just motivate and plow through anything that we need to plow through. Now that we are going to have the opportunity, what I would like to do is do PD just like we do during the daytime, once a month. So I was charged as the coordinator on May 1st to meet all the other coordinators for the state of Connecticut in adult ed. And we did our first of many trainings for the Bridge program. The Bridge program is making those partnerships and those connections. And so what I need to do is I need to bring that back to my team, my teachers, my staff, my support staff, and say, okay, we are challenged with partnering with different programs, with different businesses. What is best for our clients, and where do we go from here? And that's going to be a focus of our PD starting July 1, is here's what we have to do according to the state, and how are we going to get there? And what is going to be the best route for our students, our current students and our future students and our past students? Because as I said earlier, we have to continue communication with our past students. They might still need stuff, or they might have information for us on what worked and what didn't work. So that's the focus of PD as of next year.
Okay.
And if I can add to that, we have been offering Welcome Back PD. We've done that the past 2 years. There's also some state mandated training that kind of complements the PD. They're learning more about content areas and different strands within that. So those are ongoing. But yeah, we are excited to be able to offer more support for our teachers.
Great. It's good to have you on board full time.
Thank you. Anybody over here? Mr. Coburn.
All right. Thank you both for the brief overview. I know this was kind of useful to kind of share this information. I look back on obviously June of last year when you provided a little more in-depth update. So I'm glad in between this and our earlier meeting regarding the position and where it's going, interested in like hearing how we're going to expand this and some of the questions related to CNA and para pathways and stuff like that. I'm definitely excited to kind of see where it's going to go, and obviously with the Career Center and the conversations we had about that. So no questions, just a comment. And then again, a public congratulations on the appointment as the 12 months post-secondary and adult ed learning coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coburn. All right, I will wrap us up. Thank you so much for this information. Again, thank you for the services that you provide to our community and our surrounding communities. And excited to hear kind of how we grow and continue to move forward. So thank you both.
Can't wait to share it. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we are going to move on to item 5A, our student rep update. I assume we're starting with our senior. Go ahead, Miss Olivia.
Good evening, everyone. A lot of end-of-year stuff coming up. The chorus and orchestra have their spring concert on May 14th, and that is this Thursday at 6:30 in the Enfield High Auditorium. As many of you may know, Enfield is celebrating 250 years of America on May 19th, but the Enfield High Band will be helping out and performing at this event, so that's very exciting for them. Seniors, the final day for payment for the senior class picnic and the banquet are this Friday, and both of those events will be held on May 29th. The class picnic will be at High Meadow all day, and class night will be later that night in the evening at Twin Hills. And then finally, senior prom is next week. It'll be held at the Mary in Springfield on Friday night, and the theme is Nighttime in the City.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to announce that over 200 students at Enfield High had perfect attendance for marking term 3, which is phenomenal. And we had one student actually win a 40-inch TV for her perfect attendance. The class of 2027 senior wear is also available for pre-order on Parent Square, and the deadline to get those orders in is June 5th. The Cardo Car Show is on May 18th at 4:30 in the back parking lot of EHS. It is free entry, but all donations go towards the Cardo Scholarship. And lastly, the Enfield High Language Awards Night is on May 21st. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. I will turn it now over to you, Mr. Macchio.
Thank you. I'm going to apologize in advance because I am going to have a somewhat lengthy EPS update tonight. I got a bunch of different things have come in, and I really feel as though I need to make some comments to try to clarify some statements that were made in terms of my perspective and why we're doing what we're doing, or why I'm leading the Board of Education in a direction in which I'm leading it as it comes to funding. So first of all, let's start off with happiness here. So we have some student awards. So I do want to congratulate Haley Gomez Funes. She's a sophomore at the high school. She is a member of their student empowerment team. So this young lady spearheaded the school-wide conversation on immigrant experience at the high school. And as such, she put her name in, was nominated for, and has just found out that she has been approved for the National Federation of High School National Student Advisory Council. So they sent her an email which basically congratulates her on behalf of the National Federation of State High School Associations, and that she's been selected to serve on their National Student Advisory Council. It is an unbelievable accomplishment and recognition due to her leadership, her character, her service, and her commitment to education-based athletics and activities. So she'll be having some more formal information and some Zoom sessions and things like that, but it's unbelievable what these kids do, but when they then do it on a national level, it's a whole nother step. So congratulations to her. I also want to congratulate Anthony Magipinto. He is a senior at the high school, and I did receive communication from Chief Fox that he has been selected as the 2026 Carl Moeller Scholarship recipient from the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association. So awesome for him. He's going to be recognized at a luncheon in Farmington, and that's going to be later in June. So him and his one guest is allowed to go to that. Very strict rules, those police associations. So congratulations to him. And I think you already heard a little bit about the spring concert series and events, but just for those who did not receive it, Mr. Doobie is a Parent Square guru and pushes out a lot of information for the music department. But he has sent out the JFK and the Enfield High School schedule. And they have concerts, well, tonight. They have one on the 14th, the 19th, the 21st, the 24th, the 28th, June 3rd, and June 11th. So by all means, go ahead and catch them. All free. You want to make sure that it was noted that they're all free to attend, but they do accept donations. So that's the congratulations for them. I do want to give a bit of an update. I pushed out some communications to all of the community prior to April vacation related to the visitor management system. So I'm not going to push out a communication, but you're going to notice that it's gone away already. So at the joint security meeting held last Friday, the town council, the Board of Education, the police department, EMS, fire, basically this system was pre-COVID, was outdated, and it was down more than it was working. And then additionally, in terms of after it was installed, we determined that it really doesn't do what I feel as though we need a visitor management system to do, and that's to do a little bit of a background check to make sure that the strangers coming into the building are not on the sexual offender registry. So with all of that being said, and the amount of difficulty that we were having with it, that system is now back offline. So they will continue to research a more modern system to hopefully better integrate in to the schools. This is a very common system that is in most schools that you go to, but this one was causing more of a hassle than it was worth. So they've sort of gone back to the old school way of doing it, and so just want to make sure everybody was aware of that. Thirdly, Board of Education reporting structures. So I provided you a memo from me to the Board of Education. There's a copy of the memo over for anybody that's in the audience over here. So the purpose of the memo, this is something that we've been working on for really a number of months, and the purpose is to make sure that we all understand what types of communication you're going to be receiving from my office, as well as the timeliness of it. We want to make sure that we continue to have transparency and that we're aligned in terms of what our expectations are. So the memo will detail out sort of those immediate emergency notifications when I'm going to interrupt you at your work and let you know what's going on because there's something major that's happening. So you'll have a time frame and a protocol. I don't think you can say that I don't communicate with you because you get a very lengthy email on a Friday. Those are just your weekly updates. Those are just things I think you should know about. But if something major is happening, God forbid we have a student or a staff death, any unplanned crisis response, anytime we have to put a school into sort of lockdown for any reason that was not planned, I'm going to communicate that out to you as timely and as timely of a manner as I can, because we want to make sure that we're taking care of the problem at hand, and then the communication will be going out to you. School bus accidents are included in that. However, I will tell you, there's often a school bus accident when no kids are on the bus. I'm not going to rush to get that to you, but you're going to get notified that it occurred because Smith is going to notify us. And then you have other significant safety concerns in terms of facility failures. Was it a couple of summers ago when all of a sudden all of the summer school had to be moved because of the lack of air conditioning at the high school, things of that nature. So you're going to get notified of that. You're going to get into the second bullet, so our annual or our periodic report. So I sort of try to work off of a pattern. So every September, you're going to receive the district improvement plan with the district assessment data. So this past September, you received the improvement plan. So next September, you're going to get sort of the updated improvement plan, but we're also going to let you know how we did in terms of the goals that we set, the progress that we made, and you're going to get that through some of the district assessment data. You have your annual state assessment results. It is state testing time right now. I was over at Whitney today walking around and not interrupting the testing sessions. However, I will tell you that they all had a wonderful snack when they were done and then were very happy to go to recess. So with that being said, they did have that going on. We have NGSS, SAT, AP, the major tests that we give. So we'll give you your update in terms of how that's going. November, I always give you, and I didn't write the word here, but it's an unaudited enrollment report. So it's the initial October 1st numbers that we send into the state. We then have some cleanup to do. They send us back some information. And throughout the course of the next month or two, we try to clean up that information to make sure it's all set up. December is what I would call the John Daig month. So we like to bring him forward, and you're going to have your indoor air quality, radon testing, which is only every 3 years, our HVAC, which we have to do every 5 years, and then our integrated pest management, so that he'll provide you with the updates related to that. January is usually when the next generation accountability will come out, so that we can let you know in terms of the overall district how we're doing. And then that's a nice time to give you a little bit of an update as a mid-year check-in on the district improvement plan. February, I will do presentations to you, but the vast majority of our life in February is centered on budget. I mean, we spend a lot of time on the budget. So, I mean, I don't lock anything in terms of an annual there. However, as items come up, as the leadership committee has suggestions or requests that we want to put on the agenda for presentations, I would be able to put that in there. In June, this coming June 9th, I believe, we're going to be having our first engagement in culture presentation. So I'm going to give you some data, but this presentation is going to be less about the data and more about what we're doing to address the data. It's about the next steps that we're taking. So you're going to get the suspension and expulsion information in terms of the supports that we're doing. Probably going to hear a lot about our restorative work that we're doing at that session. Attendance, again, John Daig will be here with some of his LEAP workers in terms of how we're trying to continue to work on that attendance. We had a nice update about the 200 plus kids that have perfect attendance at the high school. Let's make it 300 next month. Just keep pushing for that to go forward. And then restraint and seclusion, and that's going to be a lot about the policies, procedures, the trainings, and what we're required to do to make sure that we're compliant with the State Department for that. And then for those that don't get my weekly update, at 5 o'clock every Friday, included in that is your board meeting and your committee presentations. We started to try to give those to you on Fridays at your recommendation, so hopefully that's working out for you. Any updates I get from the State Department, I do give you some updates related to staffing. If I get an FOIA request, and basically anything that comes across my desk that I really think you need to be in the loop about, you get those in your weekly updates. So that's just that's the overall. If there's, again, this has been going back and forth through leadership for, I don't know, I got to think about 4 or 5 months at this point. So if there's edits, if there's revisions, if there's requests, if there's changes, keep bringing it on back up through leadership, and we'll be more than happy to continue to address those. And what I'd like to do as part of that as well is what you'll see sort of moving forward is under the superintendent's report, rather than it just saying EPS update, I want to start putting in sort of more specific presentations to that. That way the public knows what's coming. They may want to tune in for a variety of different reasons, whether the topic's interesting to them or not. But at the same time, I think it's a little more transparent than just the EPS update related to that. Questions on anything related to that?
So I was just going to thank you, Steve, for that overview. I just want to highlight that this is an evolution of a bipartisan effort. Last term, Mr. Kober enacted a data spreadsheet that we would get monthly from the superintendent. Once in this new leadership team, we looked at reviewing staff time to compile that data, when and how we already report some of that data to SDE and others, how we as a Board of Ed actually reviewed and used that information, and how it could be better used for some of our decision making, which has now kind of been this evolution of this outline of a documented kind of expectation around reporting to us as a board. I think this creates a consistent and transparent way for our district to share important information with us and the public. And I just want to thank you, Steve, and central office colleagues for putting your input, and thank across the leadership team, in particular, our discussions around kind of what we were looking to have reported and input on that. So I saw Mr. Kober with your hand up. I will pass it off to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll echo a lot of what you said. And obviously, as the superintendent indicated, there was a lot of work in our leadership subcommittee regarding this. I think there was a lot of bipartisan agreement, and I kind of like how it's obviously now written and being submitted. Obviously, there's a copy for the public just so they can see what the communication is coming from the superintendent to the board. I do like how we've clarified the immediate notifications, whether it's text message or email, annual periodic reports, kind of scheduling that out, and then obviously stuff we have in the weekly updates. I think some of my considerations, and as Board Chair Pickett mentioned, previously, last term, there was a kind of a spreadsheet that we had going that every month was kind of submitted to us. I know I was a fan of that. I'm still disappointed to see that going away. I know some of that data is either captured here or separately through the ed site, through the state. However, I know my consideration with that, a voice of leadership, and I'll just echo it here, is, data that's collected by the school district and then submitted to EdSite takes a while to be, I guess, sanitized and processed, and then it's posted publicly on EdSite. So by the time we see it, some of that data is not as fresh as I feel like would be effective to us to see that. So I know that's one of my considerations. Obviously, some of the stuff from my point of view, as we send it to the state, I would like to see kind of the board included at that stage. I know that's a conversation we could have ongoing. I know, bless you. I know some of the other considerations I had, obviously, and I had mentioned this in leadership as well, is what we don't have here, and there was some conversations about our involvement or just our ability to see it rather than wait for reporting, is like student arrests. I know that's not indicated on here. We obviously will get that June report regarding suspension and expulsions. I'm assuming that'll kind of touch on that. And I know I did kind of share with the leadership team, there is some statutes. I know I specifically referenced CGS 10233P, which talks about, again, SRO-initiated school arrests and reporting of investigations and behavioral interventions by SRO. And my interpretation on that statute is the superintendent should be sharing that report with the board. So maybe that's an ongoing conversation we can have. So those are just kind of like my thoughts at this stage. Again, this is obviously a written product that we have now that we can look at, but it's something live that we can continue to talk about in leadership through the political caucuses and kind of communicate. So I think that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. I see Mr. Macchio ready
Yeah,
to
just
chime in.
the statute that was just referenced, we are working with Chief Fox. That was information that was shared back and forth, and it's just a matter of making sure that the information that is sent over to Mr. Daig, so everything gets over to John Daig for the data purposes, that we have all of the information that's within that statute. So that is ongoing and being worked on to make sure that everything is aligned with the way it needs to be.
Perfect. Thank you. So we can continue if there's more discussion in leadership. Any other questions or concerns or comments? And then I'm going to let Mr. Macchio finish his update. Perfect. I'm going to pass the mic back to you.
Okay, last item for me is I just want to have some time to talk about the fiscal year 27 budget. So first of all, congratulations. I can tell you as I went around the district, we have a lot of excited people with the fact that they now can take a sigh of relief because the Board of Education approved budget was actually approved by the town council last evening. There was no further reductions. For those that are listening in that aren't aware, all of our budget materials are on the website, and you'll notice that the budget is detailed with the full breakdown in terms of positions and things that of which are being added in. The total budget for next year is $83,578,111.58, and that is a 4.97% increase over current year. I will say that that entire increase is not a burden that will be placed upon the taxpayers because the state of Connecticut did, thank you to all the legislators for approving this, but they did provide the town with an additional just under $1.2 million. It's $1,192,946 in supplemental aid. There were two different aid names that went along with it. I don't know how they came up with the names, but the second one being called Dracula was a little bit funny to me. But that money was sent directly to the town, and the purpose of that money was to defray the tax impact for educational purposes. So it was for education. It was not included within our ECS funding, which meant that because it was not included into our ECS funding, it didn't come to us directly. And this was a one-time payment. So this was one lump sum that's sent for this year. And I'll go into that a little bit further because I think there's some confusion related to this. Related to the budget, late last week on Thursday, I was watching the budget deliberations, and I believe it was the last budget deliberations. I noticed that there was intended to be an amendment that was going to be introduced. And if you watched last night, you saw this amendment and a number of amendments that were introduced because I will say the council did with due diligence and they went through the details of that budget. So they introduced an amendment that was intended to reduce the Board of Education by $1,916,000. The number that how they got to that number, is if you watched, was explained out. We have a non-lapsing account. I'll go into that in a little bit further. And then we anticipated some additional money that we would be able to put into that non-lapsing account. I'm going to go into that in a little bit further because as of 3:30 today, that's changed because that's what happens with these accounts. And that's why we maintain these accounts so that we can prepare for the flexibilities as they occur. So the rationale of the reduction to our budget was that we would just be able to use our non-lapsing account in order to cover any of the reductions to the budget, which is true, we could. I have a problem with that. And it was stated that many districts do this, these non-lapsing accounts, are there because many districts, and I know of other districts that have done this, they spend down their budget to $0 at the end of the year. And it's always miraculous how if you have an $80 million budget, you can manage to have $0 left at the end of the year. That's phenomenal budgeting. Well, it also means that you spent things at the end of the year that you probably didn't need to spend things on. I can tell you, it's not my practice. We don't do that here. I try to plan on the conservative side so we have something there for future years. I will also tell you that the reasoning why those towns do that, because I talk to my colleagues, is because they don't have strong relationships with their financial side of the town, whether it's the Board of Finance or their town councils, and they don't allow those boards of education to shift their funds into their non-lapsing unexpended funds. So if I'm placed in a position of either lose it or use it, those other districts would use it. That's how that all has occurred. Again, I don't do that here. If we were to be cut, if I was to use the non-lapsing account, would we be kept whole? Absolutely. I would not. I would have to reduce things out of our budget. I would have to use that money to then spend it. Here's the problem. I now don't have the money the following year to keep that going. It's a one-time fix. We're back in COVID times, right? We've now created a fiscal cliff. A fiscal cliff is not anything I'm trying to create. I'm actually trying to remove it over the next 3 years, as I've presented as part of our budget. I have a long-term plan to remove our use of outside funding from from grants that are not entitled to us every year, like the activity funds, the technology replacement plans, and things of that nature. I want to sort of slowly wean us off of that. Reason number one why I would not want to go in that direction. So, clarification regarding the Board of Education non-lapsing unexpended fund. First of all, we placed into that non-lapsing account our full 2% last year. As a matter of fact, I presented the check to the town council last year for the dollars over and above the 2%, and we gave back money to the town council rather than spend it. I could have spent it, but I didn't because, again, I don't do that. I realize we are part of a larger whole. We are part of the town. If I have money I can give back to the town, I will. So, clarifying on that. I provided to the board, when I found out about this anticipated amendment, a memo, which was detailed last night and was held up, and my exact words were used. But I want to clarify some of the words that were used. The memo is placed over here for the public, should you wish to read it, because I want to make sure everybody has the exact same information. The memo details the purpose of the non-lapsing account, and it talks about state statute, which says that we can put 2% of our unexpended funds at the end of the year, in the end of the, previous fiscal year, into the non-lapsing account, which we did last year. The statute used to only allow the town's financial authority to do that. Many boards of education, myself included in my previous district, argued that we need to be able to have the decisions with that because my previous district didn't let me do things like that. I couldn't protect the district in the future. So in 2024, a public act came out that expanded the authority and actually changed it so that the Board of Education, rather than the town council, has the ability to directly manage the deposit of the unspent funds. That's why we did what we did last year. The only authorization we have related to those funds is that it must be used for educational purposes. Now, that's a very broad term, and I think there's some question about what is an educational purpose. Well, in my mind, it's any time it's for the kids or the students or the schools where you don't have to go to the town council or the people in a referendum. So that's for educational purposes. Could be books, could be staff, Could be unanticipated special education costs, which is really the big one that's sitting out there in front of us right now. Just some of the few reasons. It is bothersome to me that that fund is termed a slush fund. There is nothing slushy about that fund. It protects the Board of Education. It protects you from what you went through, and I will just say prior to my coming here, where you had to go to the town council and say, hey, we're overexpended. And by the way, the town council would have to appropriate you the additional funding, which we know they did, and thank you very much. I don't want to, we appreciate the fact that they did what they did, but my job is to make sure you never get there again. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Everything I can save, I tried to. So it's not a slush fund. Now, I've made some statements in pre-referendum meetings because we have the biggest educational item that could happen for the town of Enfield in the building of these schools if they pass. So I'm trying to do everything I can to make sure that when we come forward with this huge referendum, that we don't have to go forward again for another one. So if I can, store some money over the course of time, Andy did a great job in the budget that he built. We had that 2% that's sitting there. I'm trying to add any little bit I can as we continue to move along, so that as we work through this referendum piece, we have something that we don't have to go back to the taxpayers and say, hey, I need more. Listen, my son just bought a house in this town. I had to explain to him that his taxes are going up. Taxes go up. Costs go up. It's going to happen. So with that, fiscal year 26, so the current year, we had a projection that I gave at the last Finance Committee meeting. And the projection was that we were going to be right around $1.1 million. I want to clearly articulate this. I brought forward to the town manager that in an effort to try to bolster the health insurance fund, any money we have left in our health insurance account, we should send back to the health insurance fund. That was not a practice that was occurring in this town. I don't know whether that practice is going to continue. I know I have a meeting on Thursday with the town manager and the assistant town manager, and we're going to talk about it some more. But that's what I would like to plan to do, because that way you don't have to go to the people to have more taxes. So the projection, the repayment of that is related to the fact that today, literally today at 3:30, CASBO sent out the updated excess cost reimbursement rates. We projected to receive our current year request was $2,486,456. We should receive, per state statute, 91% of that. So 91 cents of every dollar above and beyond our 4.5 times per pupil expenditure. So every dollar above and beyond $83,548, the state should send us back 91 cents. The state's going to send us back 67.46 cents. So we budgeted for 70% reimbursement, knowing I wasn't going to get 91. And we actually are only going to get 67.46%. The difference between what we should be getting and what we will be getting is $643,000. Special education costs, and you guys know I've said this, it was an assumption on our budget. Special education costs are going through the roof. That's why we're trying to build our RISE program. That's why we're trying to expand our Eagle Academy. We want to become completely non-reliant on anybody else and be able to do it ourselves and help our surrounding districts. Unfortunately, what that means is what we had built in our budget as a potential revenue for excess cost and what is actually potentially coming in as of today is drastically different. So as of 3:30 today, our new projected end of year balance will be just shy of $1 million, so $992,000. Should I continue down the path, which I would like to do, and help rebuild the health insurance fund, we have about $855,000 in there. That means that our projected end of year surplus is now $137,000. So the amendment as was presented last night is no longer valid because I don't have the additional money that was slated last night. And I will tell you, between now and June 30th, that number is going to change. So, why do we use that money? What could we use that money for? Well, special education costs. If I have a reserve fund that has about $1.5 million in it, and I have, let's say, 4 special education students come in that are outplaced, or 5 special education students that are outplaced, and I don't have the money to cover it, that's the money that can cover it. Because we have special education. I gave you some statistics, I think, in the past about the number of new special education students that we've had into the district. We have a lot. We have a very transient population, and we need to be prepared for it. So that's one thing that we need to protect ourselves for. The other thing, and as I've stated to my memo, in my memo, was related to the pre-referendum work, is, and I have done this in the past, so this is why I know it can happen, you can utilize your non-lapsing fund as your contribution to a state construction grant. The only time you are required to go to referendum is when you are requesting additional taxes from the people. My goal, should I have the money, was to not do that. I don't want to ask them for more taxes. You either have to have a local funding authorization, which would be the town council saying that, at a public meeting, saying that this is what we're going to use it for. I would have you do it at a public meeting, they do it at a public meeting, we then take that motion that's approved in the minutes, stamped and all that, and we put it right into the state construction grant. That counts. If we don't do it that way, we have to go to referendum, which is why you're going to referendum for the 5 schools, because there's no way we have that kind of money to cover it. The council 100% accurately understands, and I appreciate that they know that they provide us with an appropriation. And I do appreciate that last night there were not specific line items that were mentioned, because that's not their role. Their role is to appropriate you, the Board of Education, with funding. You employ me to help lead you how to use that money. I work with a number of outstanding administrators across the district to help figure out how best to use that money and how best to leverage it. So we determine how to utilize the funding. I have said previously, and I will say it again for you here, and for all the public who may have listened last night who think that I'm just trying to hold on to some money on the side somewhere. I will not utilize one-time funds for recurring expenses. So when the statement was made of, I'd rather renovate my office than keep these teachers, that's not accurate. And it's bothersome to me personally, because that gets to the core of why I'm here. I will say that there are a number of items in here, and we've talked about should we be reduced, how we would make reductions. I'd start backing them out from the way that they came in, right? I'll move on from that one. There was a mention of an additional $1 million coming to the Board of Education, which is exciting in terms of ECS. And that's for next year. That was part of this additional funding that was provided to us. There was placed into the state budget a provision that ECS grants in fiscal year 28 would not be less than the appropriation in 27, plus the additional money that they gave across statewide. However, it's a big however, there is a potential that the grant equation is going to be shifted. So it may not be exactly the way that we received it this year. If it is, it would mean our ECS goes up. It would mean it goes into our Alliance grant. It would mean that I have to write an application to the State Department for how we would anticipate using that money. They would have to approve it. They would oversee us. We would have to have data reporting to them. There's a whole lot of steps that we would have to go through. The other portion that is left out of that is any additional Alliance grant money we receive, it cannot supplant what we currently have. So it has to be for new items. The purpose of the Alliance grant is to do more than you were doing in the past, not just fund it differently. So we would have to come up with additional techniques, additional positions, additional programs. And I think I've presented some of these to you as part of our budget process. I did for future years what I would want to do. So if anybody's wondering the direction that we would want to go, please refer to our budget updates and our budget presentations. Now, my concern is that the state budget provision requires further legislation to occur. Now, when I say further legislation, that bells should be ringing. It's not a guarantee. And I don't want to pull out old sayings, but I've clearly heard from previous people numerous times to not spend the money before you have it. I think there was a reference to a lottery ticket. And I believe I've sat in that chair and presented to you folks and to the council saying I wouldn't do that. And I'm not going to do that. So why am I trying to be protective of our non-lapsing unexpended fund? Because I want to make sure you're protected. I want to make sure that we can handle situations as they come up. I and the administration have created and presented to you a long-term plan that isn't based on promises. It's based on us being able to slowly, incrementally build back what was lost. We were very fortunate this year. I will be the first to say I am ecstatic over the town council's approval in terms of our budget. I was the same last year, and I mentioned it to Andy. I think it's wonderful. If we can incrementally do those things over time, smaller tax increases every year, we're going to be able to get Enfield back to where it was. I don't want to do it in a year. I don't want to do it in 2 years. I have a 3 to 4 year plan that we're trying to do this in. This isn't about me renovating an office. I happen to like my office, for the record. It's the former nurse's office at Elkhorn School, if anybody really wants to know. The pre-referendum committee, and the number of times that we've met, there was a goal. And it wasn't just about, let's choose what's the right schools, let's choose what's the right setup. That was all part of it. But there was also the goal of, let's make sure we don't have any vacant buildings. Let's make sure we're utilizing the schools that we have. And I can't remember all the schools, and I know there's been a number of them over the years, but Nathan Hale's the latest, right? So we didn't want another Nathan Hale, I think is what was stated at those. And we won't under this plan. Phase 1, should it pass, Hazardville, Crandall, Parkman. Brand new schools. Phase 2, Barnard, Eagle Academy goes into Eli Whitney. So there's your 5 schools. That's your referendum. But that isn't where the work finishes, right? If we want to expand, so now I have a vacant building at Eagle Academy. We don't want that. Well, I have an ETLA program that is bursting at the seams. Over 30 kids next year. We had to put an additional bus in for them. Outstanding program. My happiest moment of the day is when I walk through that in the morning and get to talk with those kids. Nothing against you, Andy. What a great way to take the former Eagle Academy, and do some minor renovations to it and give them a brand new, beautiful space that they can work in. Now you have Enfield Street School. Enfield Street School is slated for alternative education, currently in the annex, moving over to Alcorn next year because we're trying to remove items from the annex because the annex is in disrepair, for lack of a better way of saying it. Adult education. We know how wonderful that program is. You just heard about it, and you heard about it for an hour before that. Buzz Robotics needs a place to go if the annex is no longer available. The wrestling program needs a place to be able to practice. And yes, central office. So it's not just me. This is about long-term utilizing the buildings. It's about allowing for expanded programming at Alcorn. Alcorn is in the hub of Enfield and needs to be expanded for social services. It needs to be able to provide more additional youth services. If they have the space available, why not be able to utilize it there? So again, if I can manage to, for that phase 3, if you will, not have to go to referendum and not have to request the taxpayers to give more money, why not? Again, a lot of different caveats that go along with that though, right? Proper planning, special education concerns, and things of that nature. The District Repair and Improvement Fund, DRIP fund. There are many repairs that need to occur. Far more than the $264,000 a year we get. Now, the District Repair and Improvement Fund, it's not just about repairs, requires the Chief Executive Officer of the public school operation, that's me, to certify that the funds are going to be used in compliance with the statute. So what can we use it for? Well, construction, renovation, repair, enlargement of school buildings or school grounds, and that could be parking lots, that could be athletic fields, that could be playgrounds. By the way, we have a brand new program going into Enfield High School called the RISE program. That's an expansion of a program. Potentially, DRIP could be utilized for that. We have the Alternative Education Center that's going to be moving upstairs to Alcorn. There are costs related to that. DRIP could be utilized for that. Could also be used for improvements to school facilities or compliance with health safety code requirements. Also could be for the purchase, installation, or maintenance of or improvements to fixed school infrastructure, heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, plumbing, electrical systems, and roofing. Ms. McGuire-Bruce was at a DPW meeting, and I believe she heard about the major issue we have over at the high school. The dedicated outdoor air system is failed, if you will, on the roof of Enfield High. It's not a small repair. It's a very large unit. You know those big walk-in storage units, those metal containers? Well, that's about the size of this thing. And it's way up on the roof of the high school, which would involve a very large crane. Well, that failed because there were multiple related issues prior to that failing. There were multiple related issues prior to that failing because per the DPW folks at the meeting, There was no preventative maintenance program for that unit. That is my major worry. The district repair and improvement fund cannot be utilized for all the repairs. We need to properly maintain what we have, because you'll never be able to keep up with the amount of repairs, especially for the infrastructure that we have. I guess I'm just going to end on my rambling, and I apologize for this. Yes, next year is going to be difficult because you have reevaluation. Yes, home prices have drastically increased over the course of since the last reevaluation, which means taxes are going to go up, which means that the mill rate, even if it stays the same, your taxes are going to go up. As I plan for multiple years to try to lead the Board of Education to handle these issues as they come along, I think we have to come to the realization that you're going to have tax increases every year. Some level of tax increase. I couldn't hear it clearly, but I think there was a mention of like just under $4 a month was the amendment that was requesting a tax increase. So I reached out to John Wilcox today and I said, what are the actual tax increases? So I want to make sure I get the facts out from John Wilcox related to the mill rate increase. I asked him for a variety of different home prices. So he gave me $200,000, $300,000, and $450,000 homes. So the tax increase, 5.1%, equates out to be $322 for the year on a $200,000 home. I don't do well with, like, what does that mean in a year? So it's $26.83 a month. It's 88 cents a day. $300,000 home, your tax increase will be $483. That monthly is $40.25. That's $1.32 per day. A $450,000 home will have a $724.50 tax increase. That monthly is $60.38. That is $1.98 per day. I understand fixed incomes are incredibly difficult. As I mentioned earlier, I had to sit down with my son, who is a brand new home buyer in Enfield, and his home is somewhere in this range, a little over $300,000, so he's going to have to figure it out. And I told him to plan for another tax increase for the year after. 24-year-old kid and his fiance who plan to have kids and want the best education possible. His exact statement to me, and again, not everybody's in the same situation. Dad, if I can't figure out $1.32 a day, then I got problems. Everybody has different situations, and I know I'm coming across rough tonight, and I don't mean to be, but I am here with my heart wide open, begging everybody to understand that if we want to do what's right for the kids, if we want to do what's right for the community, if we want to do what's right for the preventative maintenance programs, for the police, for everybody that I listen to as part of those deliberations, we got to figure a way out to have these these increases. Because if you do it right, you don't need to have a 5% increase every year. But we got to figure out a way to do it. I'm committed to the 3-year plan, and on behalf of the Board of Education, I know I probably just stuck my neck way out there and related to the politics of this town, but I'm sorry. Again, you employ me to make sure I provide you what is in the best benefit of the kids and the teachers and the community, and this was a very long-winded EPS update. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Steve, thank you. I appreciate you, sharing the various reports that you shared before the long-winded piece around the budget. I do think it's very important that that is accurately reflected and shared. Mr. Kober, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you, Mr. Macchio, for the, like you said, long-winded EPS update, and we do appreciate the additional information you outlaid relating to the budget, along as well as with your thoughts and perspectives on it. I had, I guess, two questions. I guess the first one to the board chair, to our recording clerk. The two memos that the superintendent provided that are available for the public, can we append those to the minutes of this meeting when you post them? Just again for transparency, so when the minutes go up, these two memos will be on the back pages. That would be outstanding.
Thank you.
And then my second question, and this will be to the superintendent, you mentioned for the current FY, so the current fiscal year 26 that ends June 30th, you were talking about you got an update relating to excess cost and that the percentage is changing for this current year. So I just, some clarification I'm seeking on that, because my understanding is excess cost is distributed to us quarterly. So since we're already in May, is this only affecting the last quarter of excess cost reimbursement to us?
Yeah, it comes in multiple installments. So when we, did I put it in my notes here?
I know you said the percentage was changing, that we had budgeted for 70 and was dropping to about 67
Right.
cents.
So we had projected at the last time that we received the payment, the projection on March 12th was that we were going to be receiving $1,997,362. So today, when they finalize all of the payments, because we all submit our special education costs to the State Department, it becomes this one large lump sum, and then they have to figure out how that's going to get distributed out. Today, we were notified that we're actually, instead of the anticipated 1,997, we're going to get the 1,843.
Okay, that makes more sense, just because I know you had mentioned our projected surplus and that it was dropping, I think, from just over $1 million to like 900-something thousand, but then you had also mentioned like a $600,000 number, and I was assuming that was for like a whole year.
Yeah, I threw a lot of numbers out there.
You did, and I was just, again, for my own understanding and for transparency for that. So I do appreciate that. I know excess cost has obviously been a really important issue. Obviously, it's just a part of our budget, and it only relates to special education, and you had touched on the formula regarding the per pupil expenditure, and I appreciate you kind of touching on the 4.5%, what that equals for our per pupil, how many students qualify for that. So I think that's important, and then understanding just the perspective of where excess cost falls into our full budget as a single thing. So once again, I appreciate that, you just kind of clarifying that, and again, thank you for everything you said tonight.
Because there were so many numbers, I'll put that into your weekly update so you can see it, because again, I get number heavy.
Appreciate it.
Spreadsheet Steve. I do recall that. I'm just going to close out kind of your comments here, Steve, by saying thank you. And again, to our staff for putting our budget. Thank you to the town council members who voted to support this budget and invest in our schools and our community. Throughout this process, our superintendent and the board remained committed to transparency, thoughtful planning, and responsible budgeting practices grounded in that long-term sustainability. We will continue to share this information, prioritize our students, and advocate for the resources that our schools need to thrive. So thank you, Steve. All right, let's move on then to public comment. Thank you. All right, so I will first call up, before I call anybody up, let me give my spiel. Good evening, thank you for joining us. A couple reminders before we begin public comment. Each speaker will have 4 minutes. Please share your name and relationship to the district. It's a time for your comment. It's not a conversation or a Q&A with the board. Our role is governance of the district, so please frame your remarks accordingly. Remember that all comments become part of public record. In keeping with board policy and state law, we ask that you avoid from sharing information that's confidential, including personally identifiable student information or specific personnel matters, which can't be addressed in this public forum. We thank you for coming tonight. So I just think of last meeting for those who continue to tune in to us. We have just public speakers, but just for those watching and thinking about if we were to have members of the board speak, they do not speak on behalf of the board. They would be speaking as members of the public. But tonight, I'm going to call up Danielle Brown. And if you could just make sure your mic is on and just name in relation to the district.
Danielle Brown, parent of a student in Franklin Street. Good? All right. So, I am here today to talk about the transparency and lack of oversight in the Talented and Gifted program. Overall, I'm very disappointed that the board has not increased funding and there hasn't been more program development. Fortunately, I was able to attend the public curriculum meeting, which was on April 29th. However, I pressed the buzzer and nobody let me in. A board member used her badge so that I could enter the building and help direct me to the meeting. It looked like the secretary went home for the day. I was not able to speak at the meeting and I didn't receive all the board materials like everyone else. Since I didn't have a chance to speak at the meeting and there's so much that I wanted to say, I want to take this opportunity to share my comments. Overall, I was very happy to hear that there are thoughtful discussions happening around the TAG program. But I was unclear if any of these new developments would be implemented for the next school year. From an outsider's standpoint, it appeared that TAG had been discussed at past meetings, but there had been no new implementations. More importantly, it was apparent that the district and the board are at capacity. And although they appeared to enjoy discussing the program, there's a clear lack of development, which was part of the donors' wishes. So I want to be clear and direct with my requests, and I have 12 of them, my favorite number. So I'll start with 1. I want the district to open a new account just for the TAG endowment deposits that come from the investing account. 2, I do not want the funds ever transferred into the district activity account, since this type of account is usually meant for immediate use and it commingles with other revenue and general funds. Endowments are restricted funds, and so they should never mix or live with other funds. 3, I want the Finance Committee and the Superintendent to stop approving any TAG transfer requests from the business office without first reviewing the invoices. 4, I want the endowment funds entered into the financial management system with the proper source code, which is 4. 5, I want the business office to stop using offset manual spreadsheets to record TAG expenditures. A manual weakness was flagged during the audit. 6, I want a basic ledger of TAG expenses, including invoices. 7, I want new MacBooks that the TAG teacher requested, since they're 14 years old and they no longer hold a charge. 8, I want EPS to update the students they've identified as gifted and talented in EdSite. There is no data in that system. 9, I want a Board of Ed TAG subcommittee. 10, I want TAG information updated on the website. 11, I want EPS to hire an individual to develop and create the TAG program with the TAG teacher. And 12, I would like my Freedom of Information case, which has been assigned a number. It's FIC 2026-0264, not to reach a hearing, and for the district to just be transparent and provide me with my requests. Freedom of information and freedom of speech shouldn't come at a cost. They are basic liberties as a human. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Griffin?
Maureen Griffin, Abbey Road, parent. Yeah, that was a long one, Steve, but there was a whole lot of smoke that needed to be blown away with a lot of wind to get some clarity. Yeah, I'm just being weird. I told you I'd be nice to you for a change. All right, first off, I want to thank the town council for passing the school budget intact. Very important. Now it's time to move forward. I believe that suggestions on improving processes are good, but I was unaware of how the curriculum committee conducts their meetings had been changed from previous years, because there was new requests, so it must have been changed. Okay. The last meeting, what the heck was that? All right. You all have avenues to bring concerns up for discussion, please utilize them and avoid theatrics. For all of you, I ask you to reflect upon your motivations when addressing issues, no matter the avenue you choose. Are you seeking attaboys from the Macho Bro crew, or you go-girls from the Jaded Women's Club? If you are, you have lost your way. The role entrusted to you calls for always keeping the students in the forefront of your minds. Are you modeling respectful dialogue and dignified behavior? Are you treating each other in a way that you would like your loved ones to be treated? Should Olivia and Chase emulate you? Would they be presenting the best impressions of our district if they did? Never forget that little eyes and ears are always aware of what the adults around them are doing. Avoid hypocrisy and being disingenuous. That's the bare minimum that y'all owe the kids and the town. Cut the crap, do the job.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. All right, let's move on to unfinished business, which there is none. We will move on to new business. In our consent agenda tonight, in our meeting packet was our approval of our meeting minutes for our April 28th meeting, approval of our accounts and payroll for April, and there wasn't any communications, but I did just want to publicly share, we did receive our Enfield High School graduation invitations and information at our last meeting, so we have gotten our official invite for that. Do I have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kober, seconded by Ms. McGuire Bruce. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Nope. And that is a raise hand vote. All in favor of our consent agenda? Thank you, Ms. Kiner. Looks like 9 in favor, none against. All right, we are now going to move on to item 8B, discussion and possible action regarding policy revisions. I'm going to be turning this over to Policy Subcommittee Chair, Ms. Broculio. She's more than prepared to share our continued bipartisan work on policy revisions. So I will pass it over to you to kind of share our format for this evening and kind of start us in motions.
Thanks. As part of our ongoing policy work, the subcommittee has been transitioning the 1000 series policies from CABE to Shipman and Goodwin. After working through the 9000 series, we learned a great deal about the process and decided it was more effective to move through the work in smaller, more manageable sections. So the policies being presented tonight are mostly new policies that the district did not previously have in place but are needed, with a few exceptions, which I will further clarify as we go through each policy tonight. Please note that the number of the policy is of little consequence and will be reestablished with a new numbering sequence once we approve the full set of the 1000 series policies. I will also reiterate that this is a first read of these policies, so please contact me or any of the other policy members with any suggestions or revisions as we move towards our second read. First, we are bringing forward Policy 1000A regarding automatic external defibrillators, or AEDs. This is a new policy for the district and outlines the board's commitment to maintaining AEDs in schools, ensuring trained personnel are available, and supporting their use during medically appropriate emergencies in accordance with the Connecticut law and state regulations. This is really just a common sense and safety policy that we need. So motion to approve the first read of Policy 1000A.
Motion to approve.
So moved by Ms. Broculio, seconded by Ms. McGuire Bruce. Any discussion, Mr. Kober?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll start off with a comment and then a question. Just as a generic comment, I know our policy chair did a good job kind of highlighting with our last set that we did, and I'm glad that our 1000s, through our discussion, that we're returning to our practice of actioning individually by policy to allow further discussion, comments, and vote by policy rather than chapter or slate. So specific to this policy, I guess my question, and I don't know if the board member or the administration needs to answer this, but since we didn't have this policy, assuming this policy moves forward, would this incur like a financial obligation? The current AEDs that we have, is that a town-managed item that they're responsible for? Again, we talked about preventative maintenance and replacement, or are they a board item that is in our board budget that we would have to be replacing? And would this policy change that?
I'm not sure if Mr. Macchio has an answer. I would share that the joint leadership conversation will continue about defining those supplies, but I'll defer to Mr. Macchio.
Yeah, I don't have it. I will have to refer to our health services coordinator to find out if it's within her budget. I can do some quick checking here tonight. I can go through the budget that I have on my computer to see. I believe it might go through health services, but I can't be 100% sure of that.
Okay, no, thank you. And it's just something as it came up and I started reading it, it was a consideration that I thought of. And again, as Board Chair Pickett said, obviously defining town expenses because they're town buildings, but they're operated by us. So what is that? So obviously just the preventative maintenance, replacing training costs, stuff like that. Training costs, I'd assume, probably our
Training
costs.
is us.
Is
Yeah.
us, yeah. That would make sense. So I guess that would be my question regarding this. So preferably before the second read, if we could just have an answer on that. Again, just seeing too that we did not have a policy and now we're passing one. What was the previous practice, and would this change that in any way?
I'll have your answer by Friday update.
Outstanding. Thank you, Ms. Macchio.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Lawler.
Board Chair Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Proculio?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. Gauss?
Yes.
Mrs. Kiner?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Back over to you, Ms. Proculio.
The policy subcommittee is also bringing forward policy 1000B regarding deadly weapons and firearms. This is a full replacement of the previous policy 1700 and establishes clear prohibitions regarding weapons on school property, school transportation, and at-school sponsored activities, while also outlining the limited exceptions permitted under Connecticut state law. Motion to approve the first read of policy 1000B.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Ms. Proculio, seconded by Ms. McGuire Bruce. Discussion, Mr. Kober.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I did have a question, I guess possibly the policy committee may have this, because I know this is a shipment model policy, and I know obviously there's an exception that we are, an optional exception that we are keeping due to the fact that we have armed security in our school. I did kind of read through the peace officer exemption that's in there, and a consideration that came to mind, just because I know specifically for off-duty peace officers at the federal level, there's a Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act where they are allowed to carry at any stage. Obviously, this seems to exclude them because they're not on duty. Was there any consideration on that? Is there any language or precedent that relates to that regarding off-duty peace officers if they're coming into our building? How would this policy affect them?
Sorry, I'm trying to recall. We had conversations about peace officers because they're included in the policy, but you're wondering if they're
Correct. So the language with the exception talks about basically like on duty in official capacity. So I guess my question would be just.
We'll clarify it before the second read.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm almost positive we said that they are not to possess, but we'll verify.
All right, roll call, please.
Board Chair Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Proculio?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. Gauss?
I'm going to abstain on this one.
Mrs. Kiner?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Abstain.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce?
Yes.
Motion passes. Ooh, sorry.
Thank you. 702.
5, 6, yes. 702.
All right, and back to you, Ms. Proculio.
Next up, Policy 1000C regarding the district's green cleaning program. This is another new policy for the district and formalizes the use of environmentally preferable cleaning products in school buildings along with required parent, staff, and public notification procedures in accordance with the law. I also want to note that this policy is focused on drafting policy in compliance with the law and the district's overall green cleaning framework. So a quick search of our charter and ordinances did not result in any townwide policies on pesticides or green cleaning other than disposal. But Board Chair Pickett will bring this up at the next joint leadership meeting for further clarification because I know there were some questions on that. At the state level, Connecticut does have the EPP program, or Environmentally Preferable Purchasing Program, which provides resources in developing.
His moisture's working. All right.
Bobby, you may want to turn your mic off.
In developing municipal policies and guiding purchasing that has smaller ecological footprints. As for operational questions such as implementation procedures, approved products, or how donations and classroom wish list items are handled, these are matters that would be addressed through administrative implementation and is outside the purview of us as board members. Motion to approve the first read of policy 1000C.
Motion to approve second, right? I'm seconding.
Yes, you're
Second.
seconding. Good
That's
job.
what I thought.
Moved by Ms. Berculio, seconded by Ms. McGuire Bruce. Discussion, Mr. Cober.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as was mentioned by our policy chair, I know there were some considerations with this policy. Looking at it from policy perspective, I know it includes a statement, quote, "No parent, guardian, teacher, or staff member may bring into the school facility any consumer product which is intended to clean, deodorize, sanitize, or disinfect," end quote. So I guess my question on that is, since the policy says basically shall, not may, it kind of begs the question that maybe this policy should be reworded. I know obviously we do all want to be environmentally conscious, and I don't think anyone's opposed to that. But this does seem a little more restrictive in the policy sense, where the administration would not really have any discretion. And I know we talk about a lot of teachers have wish lists, they take donations, they post things on Amazon. Obviously at the beginning of the year is a big time, and they're all looking for Lysol wipes and this and that. And based off my interpretation of this, it seems pretty straightforward that that would not be allowed. We would be constrained to procure products off of this environmentally friendly list that the state gives out. So again, it seems like we're narrowing it down, and that would be a significant change to how we currently do business. So I would just kind of like, I guess, further discussion or feedback on what this policy would change, what that implementation would look like, and possibly further consideration for policy.
Go ahead, Ms. McGuire Bruce.
Right now, we are already under a policy that we cannot have it. Right? I mean,
Right, so-
we can't have it.
So this policy as written is the requirement per law. So we need to change practice is what needs to happen. It was only during COVID times when you were allowed to bring all of that back into the buildings. So we just need to update our practice to make sure we're in alignment with this policy. You don't have a lot of ability to flex on this. Sorry.
No, I appreciate the update, Superintendent Macchio. So I guess then for teachers, they just wouldn't be able to accept donations unless there'd be some sort of confirmation that it was a green cleaning product?
Correct.
Okay.
So they would no longer be able to request Clorox wipes.
Yes, or Lysol wipes or
Correct.
familiar name brands like that would be prohibited unless.
It was one of the emergency orders back during COVID that those were allowed to come into the buildings. And I think what happened is it just never reverted back to the way it should have been.
Interesting. All right. No, I appreciate that. I know, obviously, from a parents and teachers perspective, obviously, helping out teachers with that has been a big thing.
Absolutely, and we appreciate all of the help and assistance. And you know what? There's a lot of germs out there, and I think we all know what works best in our homes and what they would like to use, what works best in the schools. But unfortunately, to be in alignment with the program, those can't be in the classrooms.
All right. Well said. So like I guess I said, when we do our policy decisions, obviously they have wide-ranging implementations, and obviously there is some stuff that comes from the state. So things to keep in mind as we discuss and adjudicate policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cobert.
So in reality, we can obviously have that list of the products that we can use in the schools, correct? And we could always give that to the teachers to have them add that to their wish list.
Yeah, so we can work with John Daig, who can work with DPW to try to get the list that would be appropriate.
Perfect. That's all I'm looking for, because obviously those wish lists are super important to the teachers. So
a lot of germs in those schools.
Yes.
So are germs.
My husband's a front office secretary. He's like, we have no more tissues for the rest of the school year. And I was like, lovely. All right, thank you. I'm going to close out discussion. Roll call vote on this, please.
Board Chair Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Broculio?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard?
yes.
Mr. Gauss?
Yes.
Mrs. Kiner?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
No.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1-0.
Thank you. Back to you, Ms. Berculio.
I'd also like to add, I know we're working on updating our district website, so I think it would be great if we could publish that on there when we get the list from DPW.
So the green cleaning program is on our district website.
Okay.
I was able to verify that it is there. If everybody goes to district information on the website, there is a drop down, and right on that list it says green cleaning program.
Thank you for that clarification. We're now moving to policy 1000D, non-discrimination, for a first read. This policy reaffirms the district's commitment to maintaining a learning and working environment free of discrimination and harassment on the basis of protected classes as defined by state and federal law. I am aware there were some questions around legal advisement that came up, so I do want to name that this policy was drafted by the legal team using the required verbiage, specifically being inclusive of Board of Ed members. Motion to approve the first read of policy 1000D.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Berculio, seconded by Ms. Gerard. Discussion, Mr. Gauss.
There is no such thing as the Boy Scouts anymore, so I would suggest changing the name to Scouting and Other Groups by law, because scouting covers all of them, even Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Pioneers, all of them.
Thank you. We did discuss that briefly at our meeting.
I was like, I wonder why we call out just the Boy Scouts. So that is helpful language. Thank you, and we will ensure that update gets updated. Thank you, Mr. Gauss. Mr. Kober?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know, I'm glad to hear that the policy committee just had raised some considerations. I believe it was either 2 years ago or last year that the non-discrimination policy had went through committee, and as a result of some litigation that the board was involved in, we did have to make some verbiage changes, and that obviously was passed in the most recent policy. And I believe there was guidance that was further stipulated that because, again, the board and the town were so tethered with operations that we're supposed to have a consistent policy on the board side and the town side. So I know our last amendment, or the amended version that we had done of the policy, I believe it was 0521, but we had renumbered it. So I believe it was whatever the current number is. But that it was shared with the town of Enfield, so that like through their HR department, they would have a similar policy. Again, partly due to litigation and update through different civil rights guidance. So I'm glad to hear that we had either a legal opinion, informal legal opinion, or it was shared with them. I know I did also just have some considerations on, because I believe the Title IX has obviously changed at the federal level through like the Office of Civil Rights and stuff like that. And there was guidelines that were in effect at one point, and they were rescinded, and then they came into effect, and they were rescinded again, and so on and so forth. So I guess my last wonder then is, how does this align with those through like the U.S. Department and Ed? Is there any possible conflict? I believe there's some like case law and still some pending litigation at the federal level related to some non-discrimination protected classes and stuff like that. And I didn't know if this had touched on that.
I would say this is not our Title IX policy. This is our non-discrimination. I'm just looking at Andy Longy quickly. I would also just share that I know we have had discussion about state and federal law, and we follow state law, and guidance around those things is what I believe was our legal guidance on those. And as far as the town council side of this, I have on my notes for our next joint leadership meeting, conversations around what policies they have. Those is obviously their policies, so not our purview. No, stay in my lane, but we can definitely chat with them about what do they have over there and ensuring that it's encompassing of what was required. Mr. Anderson?
So I just want to make sure that it's still okay to discriminate against someone if they're not a protected class.
No, you can't discriminate against anybody. This is just the federal law
Well, then maybe
around
the
protected
policy needs to
classes.
stay that.
This is in regards to specific federal law and protected classes.
Oh, that's my opinion.
You can provide that feedback.
Thank you.
All right, let's, oh, Griffin, sorry.
So just to clarify though, because I understand that there is a separate non-discrimination for students and staff in addition to this one. But this does open the door to the protected spaces, the private spaces, does it not? In athletics, or is it only the student and staff one?
Right, so this policy is for the community, so the athletics will go into the student side of non-discrimination.
Okay. And the private spaces, where does that fall?
That would be under the student non-discrimination.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Board Chair Pickett.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
No.
Ms. Broculio.
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman.
No.
Mrs. Gerard.
Yes.
Mr. Gauss.
No.
Mrs. Kiner.
Yes.
Mr. Kober.
No.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce.
Yes.
Motion passes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 4 to 0.
So I would just say in a wrap up of that one, since this is a first read, there is a second read. If there are specific considerations or feedback, I would also just share this is one that is rooted in state and federal law and is being guided by a recent lawsuit. So we do have some parameters around which we're operating in. But please share your feedback on that. Back to you, Ms. Broculio.
Moving right along, Policy 1000E is regarding pesticide application on school property. This policy outlines the district's integrated pest management practices, establishing notification requirements for families and staff, and ensures compliance with Connecticut law governing pesticide use on school grounds and in school buildings. Motion to approve the first read of Policy 1000E.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Broculio, seconded by Ms. McGuire Bruce. Discussion on this one. Mr. Kober?
Yeah, I guess the only question of consideration is obviously because our school buildings are town property, is it actually Board of Ed employees that would be administering pesticides, or would that be town employees doing it?
I believe it is town employees. It's our building and grounds.
Okay, so I guess just for, again, implementation with this policy, because it wouldn't be binding on non-Board of Ed employees, so is this something that we'd share with the town and say this is our policy, would you kindly abide by it, since they wouldn't be mandated?
Well, they're required to abide by it. I mean, they're the folks who are taking on the buildings and the grounds. So we will be sure to share this new policy with them so that buildings and grounds can be completely aware. But they have to abide by it. It's the school buildings must follow this.
Okay, I just, again,
Yeah,
clarify, because they're non-board employees.
We're an interesting arrangement here.
Yeah,
the fact that we don't oversee our own buildings.
Okay, no, thank you.
Mr. Gauss?
I have a question kind of similar but different. This provides for a method for children and for the schools, parents and children, to register that there are issues with them. Can we somehow include some wording that we need to share that with the people that are applying?
I believe, and Superintendent Macchio, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we already actually go above and beyond that, and we do inform regardless of whether or not they're opted in. Am I correct?
Yeah, I believe we pushed out to everybody, is what we had talked about it, that we actually, rather than do it to the individual basis, we alerted to everybody that it's happening.
No, I understand that we're letting our students know, but if we can share that information with the people who would be applying the pesticides and stuff like that, the operator supervisors, so that they can plan accordingly and maybe switch up what they're using.
As far as them knowing which pesticides to use, so all of that is shared. We just never have had this policy on our books. So like the application and implementation of this is already like the town's aware of
Which I understand, but if we're having a policy, we should include everything about it, is my point.
Yeah, so we'll be sure that we go through the policy with the DPW and with the buildings and grounds so that they're aware of that they're aware that we now have the policy. I think the practices and procedures are likely not going to change, but yeah.
I understand having in a past life been a pest control operator. So these things concern me. Just in the same way that some of the issues Mr. Kober brought up with other things is that although they were past practices, just making sure that they're documented for the future is important.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Gauss. Roll call.
Board Chair Pickett?
Here. Yes, here.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Broculio?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. Gauss?
No.
Mrs. Kiner?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Abstain.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce?
Yes.
All right, so 7-1-1 passes.
Thank you. And for the last policy revision, Ms. Broculio?
Policy 1000F involves the district's new pool safety plan. This policy establishes safety procedures, supervision requirements, and qualification standards for staff overseeing student swimming activities in district swimming pools in accordance with Connecticut law and student safety requirements. Motion to approve Policy 1000F's first read.
Second.
So moved by Ms. Broculio, seconded by Ms. McGuire Bruce. Discussion. I will share that if I recall this correctly, this is a policy regardless if you have a pool or not, districts need to have. Our pool is currently used in recreation and for athletics, so we aren't doing anything with our students actively in a pool, but just wanted to put that out publicly. Any other comments or discussion? Roll call.
Board Chair Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Broculio?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. Gauss?
Yes.
Mrs. Kiner?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Yes.
And Ms. McGuire Bruce?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. All right, and I'm going to pass it one more time to Ms. Broculio. We are going to look at repealing policy 5112. We did have some recent policy approvals, so you can fill us in there.
I get all the airtime tonight. So this final policy motion involves repealing Policy 5112. At our last meeting, the board approved the first read of Policy 5111, which covers the requirements outlined in state law regarding age of attendance. These policies will change again next year when early admittance to kindergarten is phased out. In the meantime, we are working to update the district website with information regarding special education services that had previously been embedded in this policy to ensure easy access for families if they need it. With that, I move that the board approve the repeal of Policy 5112 as presented.
Second.
So moved by Ms. Broculio, seconded by Ms. McGuire Bruce. Any discussion? Mr. Kober?
Thank you. So I did have some more questions regarding this one. I know as our policy chair said, we did pass an updated 5111 recently. Regarding age of entry into the school system. That 5111 is a very brief policy. It's got 3 paragraphs. The last paragraph regarding the kindergarten waiver, which if we change that, we'll eliminate that paragraph, so that'll be a 2-paragraph, very short policy. However, the one before us tonight for repeal, 5112, seems a little more in-depth, where it talks about ages of attendance and dropouts. It talks about enrollment. It talks about, and I understand there's state guidelines regarding enrollment, but this policy clearly says what we require in terms of verifying residency and age of students as our 2, I guess, key points. Obviously, there's other things you could verify, but such as citizenship that's not required. We're only required to verify residency and age. And then, of course, there is an exemption for homeless students that is clarified in this policy. I know this policy has a couple forms that are included, and I noticed like the one that kind of jumped out at me is the Form 1 that's appended to this policy, which regarding acknowledgement to exempt your kids out of public school. So I fear if we repeal this policy, we won't have that form. I understand there's state guidelines that will be forthcoming after July 1st due to a change in state law regarding homeschooling, and that's changing everything. So I guess I would just like to hear more of the rationale why everything else that this policy covers is not required, including the forms, Form 1 and Form 2 that are currently in this policy.
Okay, does anybody want to take a lead? I'm trying to recall all these conversations. I do know we looked at multiple policies, and a lot of the language lives in our other policies. I'm also going to try to pull up that document that was a crosswalk.
Yeah, I'll just add, and I don't know if you specifically touched on this one, we did have Amy Dennis come and present to us, because we had some questions around the special education prior to 5, and the information and where that could be found if it wasn't in a policy, because we also noticed that that was out of the policy. And I feel confident after our conversation with her that honestly, as a parent, if you're having questions about your student, you're probably going to go to the district website. And so that's why I think we furthered our conversation about potentially having some more information about where families could go on our website, rather than feeling like a parent was going to look for it in the policy if you had general concerns about how, your student academically before kindergarten. So that was a big focus of our conversation with this one. I know I'm not answering all of your questions, but.
Thank you, Mrs. Vice Chair, because that actually was a consideration too, that this policy, their 5111 doesn't talk about children under 5, and this one specifically also has a paragraph relating to children over 3 regarding special education. So I think that's important. To your point of obviously parents checking the policy versus the website, yes, I agree. In practice, parents will definitely check the website. But again, thinking of a role as governance and a policy-making body, if it's if it's on the website, that's not necessarily authoritative. The policy is kind of what establishes that.
I think we also said, and I should have said this, that's part of the law as well. So that I shouldn't have said it was out of our governance. It's the law as well, but we were just thinking about providing more information for parents on the website. So not to negate the law piece of it.
Gotcha. Understood. So I guess those are my wonderings about this. And again, especially regarding the Form 1 that's on it, regarding just kind of notifying the district if you're withdrawing your student. Again, understanding that will be changing due to the new homeschooling legislation coming out of the state. So again, I don't, at that point, definitely I understand that form will change and some of the language in this policy. So again, I just think if we
Just for
repeal it too early-
clarification, Form 1 has nothing to do with homeschooling. Form 1 has to do with the fact that by law, you do not have to send your child to school at the age of 5 or 6. But you fill out the form to notify us that you're not doing it. And then the next form talks about the acknowledgement of the option to withdraw a child 17 years of age from school. So that's our form that we would house. We could place it onto the district website so that way it still maintains. But it's also, if for a 17-year-old, you're working through the high school, and so the form would be, applicable for that location. So the forms are just the ability to action upon the law. The law is the law. We can't stop them from doing this. So I don't know if you necessarily, I think the purpose for this is you don't need the policy to basically restate the law. So the forms, I would agree, and we need to place those in a location where the parents would be able to have access to them. But that's also could be within our handbooks, that could be on our district website, the school counseling office, obviously, things of that nature.
Gotcha. I appreciate the clarification. That makes sense. And I know generally big picture, obviously, I'm a fan for streamlining policies. I just don't want to lose stuff. And I know certain, obviously, our policies like the law might just say a sentence, but then our policy says a couple more to kind of expand on that and allow it for interpretation. Obviously, I know when our administrators have a question, they're going to look, what does the policy say? So that's why sometimes I'm a little hesitant if we completely lose a policy without clearly seeing that, it's already in the handbook or it's already covered by this policy or this administrative regulation or so forth. So again, just kind of putting that out there. I know obviously I'm not a sitting member of policy committee, so it sounds like you guys did discuss some of this. So I'm glad now that it's at the full board stage, I just kind of want to make sure we're covering all that.
I just wanted to quickly share, I know some of the pieces, because I remember I was in leadership, I even asked, I think, about repealing this and what was the last policy we had passed. And that was more about the age. There's also regulations around the homeless students. So we have other policies where some of these pieces were kind of overlapping. Same thing with our regulations for our school attendance, kind of goes over lots of those pieces around attendance, dropout, and some of those other requirements. So we have a motion to repeal. We are discussing. Is there any other further discussion on this? And per Mr. Macchio, as far as the form that you were concerned about, we'll make sure is accessible on the district website.
Yes.
Yes.
I'd just like to agree with Mr. Cobra that it just kind of seems, it's only 2 months away when things are going to change. It kind of seems like we should just wait till then to make the changes.
Again, I want to provide clarification. What is going to change in 2 months has nothing to do with this form. What's going to change is a form related solely to homeschool students. And that's the process and the procedures that the parents and the district is going to have to go through anytime a person decides that we're going to homeschool our child. That's not necessarily the 5 and the 6-year-olds.
No, I understand that, but there will be changes that are made, even if it is 5 and 6-year-olds where they decide to homeschool. So it's not that I don't want to repeal it. I just think it's a little early.
I don't disagree. We can postpone however you want to, but they don't have to notify us of anything about their intent to homeschool when they don't have to, by law, have to actually send their children to school. You know what I mean? It's like, it's that caveat area.
Yeah, it's kind of a gray area,
yeah.
which is why I just want to be more cautious.
So I think I feel most comfortable since there are questions being raised, and I want to ensure that folks feel like we have an understanding of what policies we have, what policies we don't have, what's going to be changing. I don't know if we need to remove that motion, or can I make a new motion to table it?
We could rescind the 2 moves to approve it and then insert a motion to table.
Thank you, Mr. Robert Rules. Mr. Kober, can I have you rescind your motions?
Rescind.
They're both rescinding.
And then I will introduce a motion to table the repeal of policy 5112.
Moved by Mr. Kober, seconded by Mr. Gauss, and then I will just share that when policy subcommittee reconvenes, I think what would be helpful is that we do a crosswalk of what our existing policies are that have language that this policy has, and what things might be lost if we repeal this, and like, will it go on the district website? It's a form no longer needed, so we can make sure that everyone's kind of questions are answered.
And just if you could, just so we don't have to rewatch and write down your questions, if you could put that into writing for us for Mrs. Cushman. Thank you.
Will do. I'll try to send an email to the board chair and the policy chair summarizing at least my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. All right, thank you. Helpful to have discussion. That's why we do this. All right, now we are moving.
So we do need to do the roll call on the motion to table.
Oh, yeah, thanks. We do got to vote on the tabling it. Thanks. Can we have a roll call on the tabling of this?
Board Chair Pickett.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Broculio.
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman.
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard.
Yes.
Mr. Gauss.
Yes.
Mrs. Kiner.
Yes.
Mr. Kober.
Yes.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. And look forward to kind of hearing what we get from that. All right, let's move on to item 8D, approval of our Safe Grad donation for the class of 2026. This is a yearly donation that is accounted for in our budget. This supports a safe drug and alcohol-free evening for our graduating seniors. I want to say a thank you to our Safe Grad committee, and if I could have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So moved by Ms. McGuire Bruce, seconded by Ms. Gerard. Any discussion? Mr. Kober?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel like after Superintendent Macchio, I might be trying to take number 2 on mic time tonight. But again, we are talking a lot of important business. So regarding this approval of the Safe Grad donation for 2026, I am glad, and you did highlight it, that in our current year budget, this was whether it was an annotation or an object code in our graduation line. I know that is an item in there. However, because it is a donation to an outside entity, it obviously is still coming before us for board action. And I'm excited that we have an option for high school seniors to attend a drug and alcohol-free party and graduation night. I know, however, that the committee does also hold various fundraisers and accepts donations. I guess my consideration then is obviously using taxpayer dollars for this event that is optional for high school seniors. While it is open to everybody, I know it's not attended obviously by 100% of every single graduating senior. I know the letter that's included in our packet, it kind of indicates that this party cost or this event costs about $40,000. So I know $1,000, while it's a meaningful contribution, it's kind of a small percentage of that. And I know we have people that are involved with Safe Grad Committee. I know with something like this, again, realizing that the dollar amount is small, I think it would be nice if we had like someone kind of speaking to it or presenting it to it if there were questions. I know like my personal wonder regarding this is because graduation's coming up, obviously, and Safe Grad has started fundraising. They probably start fundraising immediately. So what are like their earnings? Have they done year to date? Like have they already hit this $40,000? Are they close to the goal? Do they have a rollover? So it's just kind of wondering, are we doing the $1,000 just because we do it every year, or is this actually a meaningful contribution to this committee? I know they had a very successful raffle earlier this year. I know they did a celebrity bartender event at like a local establishment in town. I know several elected officials participated in that. I know I didn't receive an invite, but that's okay. So my questions, again, aren't about Safe Grad itself or even the dollar amount. It's just kind of considerations as elected officials as we're appropriating money. Again, we're appropriating public taxpayer funds that are in our budget, but this is something that I would consider like discretionary spending. So I know as board members, most of us up here, and when the raffle came around, I believe we all kind of pitched in some money towards that raffle prize. So I don't think any of us here have a problem taking money out of our own pockets. It's just my consideration is when we're acting in official capacity, if we're taking money out of the taxpayers' pockets to pay for this.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. I would just quickly share that, to me, I see it as us supporting some of the extracurricular things that we support in our budget. This is an opportunity for all students, so maybe not all students do attend, but it is offered and supported for all students, and it is something that we do budget for. I do like your idea of getting some feedback from the committee as far as where they are in their fundraising, and is this a donation that's supportive, and maybe is there a different way we can support the event, but I think some of this is tradition that we have always supported Safe Grad. It is something that we've accounted for. So any other discussion? Fire Bruce?
I do understand a lot of your considerations there, Phil, and I just wanted to note that, I think that Safe Grad provides a structured, supervised, alcohol-free environment on a night that unfortunately is widely recognized as high risk for teen-related incidents in many communities, and I know that their goal is to be preventative, offering a safe alternative. I do know that 60 to 75% of students attend year after year. Those numbers, obviously it fluctuates a little bit, but 60 to 75% over the last 6 years at least has been the attendance rate. I also know that every student is invited and encouraged to attend. Every student that does come and stays through the event receives sort of a graduation gift at the end. Obviously, we know that there's donations and prizes. I know Mr. Anderson has shared their Amazon wish list with items, and I know they raffle those things off. So, while $1,000 seems like very little, I do think it contributes some, and I think it's a gesture in the scheme of tradition, but also just to continue to show support for an event that hopefully keeps our kids safe. So I just wanted to add that.
Mr. Gauss?
Okay, so not all students are invited, and we can take that offline if you'd like. I can't without disclosing names. So I will not be supporting the donation of public money towards something like that. However, I am happy to donate myself. I just don't think it is something that, as a group, if not all students are invited, that we donate to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gauss. All right, Mr. Anderson?
So that committee is completely separate from the school system, the Board of Ed.
It operates similar to like a PTO, so it's a fundraising for a Safe Grad event.
Okay. Is the financials of that public?
Who's in charge?
I was going to say,
If they are, it would be through them. We have no connection or responsibility related to it, just like a PTO. It's completely separate of the Board of Education.
And I think it also might change president, if you will, I don't know the correct term, year after year, depending on whose child, graduating committee. I think that shifts year after year as well.
Right, I'm just looking at it, $40,000 party, that leaves a lot of room for, dishonesty and hocus pocus and who knows what with $40,000.
so that $40,000 is not ours, so that relinquishes our responsibility from that, magic or not.
But taking $1,000 of taxpayer money that they didn't ask to give us, to give to the committee, and we're putting our faith in the committee that everything is on the up and up, and there's no checks and balances that I can see, so.
So I understand your comment, Mr. Anderson. I would just say it's like many organizations and nonprofits and such out there that you make a donation to in good faith that it's being used. I would say it is a group of typically parent volunteers that are trying to make a night happen for their seniors. So I would anticipate the minimization of any type of those types of concerns.
hope so.
But I hear your case. Any other discussion, Ms. Gerard?
So I'm pretty sure because they're considered a nonprofit organization, just like a PTO, they have a 501(c), which they actually have to do taxes, or they don't. Okay. So it's just a group of parents. Okay. So, I mean, they do.
I think this year they registered as a booster club.
Okay. But there is, go ahead.
I think this year they registered as a booster club.
Okay. But there is some type of accountability that needs to be done. And it's not just one individual person that has these accounts and information.
Yes, they have a treasurer and a bank account and all.
And it runs pretty much as the same as like a PTO would, where not one person can go ahead and control that money. It is multiple, and it is controlled where they have, where you have meetings and you're presenting what your financials are and everything like that. It's pretty much the same, maybe not organized as, federally wise for like a 501(c)(3), but I would say pretty much the same. But I understand what you're saying and that possible concern. But I will have to say that these parents really genuinely do put a lot of effort into this, and
I
even
don't doubt that at all.
$1,000.
I don't doubt that at all. I didn't realize that a $40,000 party was what was happening with this. I thought maybe a couple $1,000, maybe $5,000, but $40,000 is a completely other level
Yeah.
of.
And it's a lot of kids when you really think about it in the end, if you're putting a dollar amount on each individual child. But it is, it's keeping our kids safe in the end, so.
So I would share it's transportation, it's all their food, it's whatever venue. So it used to be at Sunny's Place, it's a different venue this year. So all of those costs. We good on discussion on Safegrad? All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Board Chair Pickett.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Ms. Broculio.
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman.
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard.
Yes.
Mr. Gauss.
No.
Mrs. Kiner.
Yes.
Mr. Kober.
No.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And then next, this is a challenging one. I'm going to ask for an approval of the Lester J. Bodley Memorial Scholarship recipients. We will not name the scholarship recipients, as we want to make those not public until the awards ceremony. But I do think it's important that folks understand the scholarship. So it is a $1,000 scholarship that is awarded to a male and female student at Enfield High, a senior who is well-rounded, college-bound, and have demonstrated leadership skills throughout their high school career. So excited about that. Do I have an approval? Do I have a motion to approve the two scholarship recipients?
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. McGuire Bruce, seconded by Ms. Gerard. Any discussion on this? Mr. Kober?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your overview. And I know the board obviously got a letter kind of identifying it a little better. I guess just I'll ask to the board chair, to the superintendent. Could you just, clarify like how this originates? Is it like a teacher or coordinator recommendation, and school principal gives us like the nominees, and then obviously we're the final approval, or just kind of like, how do these two students, candidate A and B, come to this stage?
We'll let former principal Mr. Longi
So
respond.
the teachers make
Outstanding.
recommendations, and then there's a committee that looks through all the applications.
Okay, perfect. So there's a committee at the high school of high school staff, and these two students, obviously, and like it says, that one of each gender gets selected as the winner.
That's correct.
And then, okay, outstanding. Thank you, Mr. Lungi.
Mr. Gauss?
I just want to make it clear to everybody out there that knows how much I support kids that might not necessarily be going to college. This is stipulated that this is for college-bound students, so I definitely will agree and vote yes on it.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Board Chair Pickett.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Ms. Broculio.
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman.
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard.
Yes.
Mr. Gauss.
Yes.
Mrs. Kiner.
Yes.
Mr. Kober,
Yes.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, on to item 9, board committee reports. Ms. Kiner, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. So we've had 2 curriculum committee meetings since our last board meeting. On April 29th, Ms. Brown, principal at JFK, provided answers to questions asked by the committee and introduced proposals for some program revisions of the TAG program. Improved methods of assessment are being studied, as well as the methods that may have led to certain demographics that were underrepresented in the TAG numbers. Inquiries were made regarding why some students choose not to continue with TAG into 7th and 8th grades. We asked Ms. Brown to survey the students to better inform our next steps. Ms. Brown then presented various proposals that are under consideration. 2 revisions that the committee agreed upon was that TAG should be offered as a full year course as opposed to a half year, and the scheduling of TAG as an integrated course in the students' schedules, eliminating the pull-out model. Ms. Brown shared her extensive research in curriculum overviews in other districts. This research and rebuilding continues. On May 6th, Ms. Brown reported the results of the survey taken to determine whether the students would prefer TAG to be an embedded course in their schedule instead of the pull-out model that is presently used. The response was a resounding preference for the TAG course to be embedded in their schedule. Most of the 7th and 8th grade students who had exited the program said they would return with the improved scheduling. This information supports our desire to end the pull-out model of scheduling. Work continues with the specifics of scheduling a workable solution. Ms. Brown will be communicating this change to the teachers, students, and families. Also on the agenda was an update on the world language staffing issues at JFK. Mr. Sinez, the department coordinator, gave a detailed account of his search in recent years and the unavailability of qualified and certified world language teachers. Going forward, French will no longer be taught at JFK, and there will only be 2 Spanish positions that will serve a limited number of Spanish sections for grade 7 and 8 students. Mr. Flynn, Director of Literacy, then explained his vision for courses that would replace world language sections that are no longer being offered. All the details can be found online in the minutes of the Curriculum Committee meeting on May 6th. There are many, many, many details. The committee appreciates the extensive work done by Ms. Brown, Mr. Sinez, Mr. Flynn, and Ms. Middleton as we continue our commitment to reimagine a new and improved TAG program for Enfield's gifted and talented students. The next meeting will be May 21st, 5 p.m., room 213 at Alcorn School.
Mr. Gauss?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kiner. I just wanted to add that Ms. Brown, Mr. Sine, and I believe Mr. Flynn also are not done working with this program. They've done a lot of work on it. They've come back a couple of times, and they said they have at least one more time before they really make the presentation. And I think Ms. Kiner and Ms. Rujulio would agree that.
I'm so sorry. I really have to go. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
You're fine, Bobby.
I think they would agree that it is really coming along, and they're making a lot of headway. It's just not quite ready for prime time yet.
Perfect. Mr. Kober?
So just a couple comments, and so obviously with the TAG program, I'm glad to hear the curriculum committee is kind of working on it. I know we had a member of the public kind of raise some concerns. There's been some correspondence on that. So I'm glad that conversations are happening. I hope they continue. I know it would make sense that if we do have changes that we do try to implement them for the next school year. So I'm not sure where the committee is at with making
That's the plan.
Yeah, exactly. With basically implementing that it will go forward. I know the speaker in the public kind of highlighted an issue where, like, according to EdSite, it doesn't show that we have any students enrolled in gifted and talented. So I guess I have a question. Maybe the superintendent can answer this. Is it because it's just like an optional pullout program? Is that why it's not reported to the state? But if this was an actual class, then we would have students coded as tag?
It's currently considered an enrichment program.
Okay, so.
Versus a gifted and talented special education identified program.
Okay, so that makes sense why, according to the CSDE Ed site, then, that we don't have a talented and gifted.
That would be the high likelihood, yes.
Okay, so that makes sense, and I'm glad we were at least able to get that clarification. And then my last comment, I guess just for the public's sake, because I had asked a question to our curriculum chair, Mrs. Kiner, at the last meeting, and then I followed up with an email, so we had some conversations with board leadership and the superintendent regarding just the process for textbook approvals. And it is one of those things that state law identifies that, most things that the board does, we can delegate out to committees. Most things the board can pass with majority vote. However, textbook, it is clearly stated in state law that it requires that 2/3 vote. So after those conversations, we did identify that we do need a process adjustment. So going forward, as textbook changes happen in the district, they will obviously be, for the most part, adjudicated in the curriculum committee with a recommendation that will come to the full board for final action. So I'm glad we were kind of able to kind of work on that, review it, kind of identify, something that we should have been doing that maybe we weren't, but going forward, we've course corrected. And again, it wasn't something that became like partisan theatrics. It was a good conversation, bipartisan work, and obviously doing the right thing for the public, the students, and the staff to, going forward again with curriculum is an important subject, and then obviously with the expending of taxpayer funds on textbooks, because it is a budgeted item every year. So that was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. I had an update about the textbooks, but you got it in for me. I just want to thank Ms. Kiner and this committee for this continued work in reimagining TAG. I know there were some public comments, and I want to ensure that the public understands that this is continued work. There's been discussions. There's like multiple pieces that are tied to this with policy and finance and curriculum. I also want to share that this is being done purposefully and incrementally. So we've talked about curriculum redesign, scheduling, and we are beginning, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong here, with next year implementing those changes with offering it as a course. So we are making some of these adjustments and ready to move. Mr. Macchio, did you have something you wanted to share? Or Ms. McGuire Bruce does. Thank you. I can't look to my left here.
I was just going to say that, as I mentioned a long time ago, that within the EPS update, rather than having it separate, this would be a nice item that we would put in under superintendent's report, where we can do just a complete presentation for how the TAG program will change. So that way all of the public can be made aware.
Thank you. All right, Finance Committee.
So the Finance Committee met on May 4th and reviewed financial updates. April expenditures were certified, which included 2 payroll cycles, sped tuition invoices, and ongoing purchase and ordering processes. Grant expenditures were also approved. I did have some details in here about the 2026 budget status, but I have crossed them out on my update as Mr. Macchio gave a more recent update. I will just say that we are hopeful to still end the year with some surplus reflecting stable financial management. And then my next piece is about the TAG and MML investment accounts. A request was made to have a 5-year look back of the MML accounts, and the 5-year review shows continued financial growth in the TAG investment count that's held with MML. The funds originated from a program settlement and were invested over time. Program expenses have been supported through investment accounts, which continues to be an ongoing conversation across multiple subcommittees. And as we've heard, potential curriculum modifications are being considered. With that, the district and the Finance Committee is mindful of investing in students while also maintaining the expectation that the program can remain self-sustaining through the investment account. So the goal remains to demonstrate a balanced approach that supports the program's needs while maintaining long-term growth, but we are cognizant of making sure that we are investing in the students as well. And then also we had a nutrition service update. The quarterly report showed stable breakfast participation and increased revenue, which was specifically tied to this year's meal price increases. There is still a number of unpaid meal balances, and as the year winds down, we do encourage families to review their accounts and work towards clearing those unpaid balances if possible. Work continues on the Angel Fund, which is an account to let others add funds to help those in need. This work is credit to Mr. Anderson. This goal is to be able to launch an Angel Fund next school year where people could go on and help those clearing of those balances if they are able. With the universal free school breakfast passing in the state budget, planning is underway for universal free breakfast in the 2026-2027 school year. A request was made for additional data, especially at the elementary schools, in order to prepare for that. There is ongoing discussion about proposed lunch price increases for next school year, and the Finance Committee heard about other district pricing as well in comparison. The Healthy Food Certification approval is scheduled for our next meeting on May 26th, and the Finance Committee will meet again on June 1st.
Mr. Kober.
Thank you, Ms. McGuire Bruce, for the update. I'm also glad that the superintendent kind of shared where we were at, because the numbers had changed since finance had met regarding where we're at with current year financials. And then I know obviously everything is a projected number until June 30th, and then obviously there's still bills and stuff going out, and it's usually, we don't really even know where we're at sometimes until maybe August. And then usually once we come back from summer is kind of when we reconcile the budget. And if there are line item transfers between things, that they get processed at that point. I know the superintendent had mentioned like the insurance fund and stuff. So depending obviously where we're at, I think that'll affect his recommendation on what we transfer, and that'll probably get rolled up, I'm assuming, in a end of August, early September, recommendation or consent agenda thing. So I'm just kind of looking forward to see where we end up with that. I know the lunch price thing and the presentation, I'm looking forward just to kind of hearing that. So I'm expecting that next meeting. And I had one more thing in my mind, but I just lost it. Oh, it was regarding the tag thing, and again, relating to our public speaker. Because I believe during the budget, I had asked questions about kind of like where tag kind of had fallen into our budget, and because it's that private endowment, it was kind of separate. But then it was indicated that it is like an offset somewhere. So I guess just for clarification, are we changing that with future budgets? Will that continue to be like a manual offset? Because again, that was a concern that, obviously with financing and stuff, as we're moving to automate things, that it should be.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Macchio.
Right, so it's not within the district budget at all. So what happens is every year, and I think the speaker is requesting a change to this, but I don't know why we would. It follows financial prudence. We submit a memo, or Lorena Cisneros creates a memo that then gets sent to the investment account detailing the amount of money we want to pull out of the investment account for salary, supplies, things of that nature. That money, when the check comes in, goes into the district activity account, and it gets placed into the tag section of that district activity account, which we provide monthly updates through the Finance Committee. That would then be utilized to pay for the specified items that were within that memo.
Expenditures, the salary and any things like that. Yeah, and I guess that is important to highlight, like you said, that once the money's pulled out of the account, it does go into the broader category of district activity funds, but there is a specific line item for tags. So that money is not mixed in with other money. It is.
Correct. It's one large account
correct.
That has 30 sub-accounts to it, and each sub-account is verified and reconciled each month.
Awesome. And I think that's kind of important just to clarify that and kind of as it plays into the big picture for, again, my point to transparency and then for the public's knowledge. So just glad you were able to kind of clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. All right, policy.
You've heard a lot about our recent work already, but our our next policy meeting is May 19th at 5 p.m. at Alcorn, and we will continue our work on the 1000 series. I will ask that 5112 be put back on the agenda and the considerations that were brought up tonight.
Thank you. All right, leadership. At our May 6th Board of Ed leadership meeting, we reviewed our upcoming Board of Education agendas and priorities for the May meetings to ensure that we're prepared and aligned. We also reviewed upcoming meeting dates and discussed possible summer scheduling adjustments, so we might be making some motions at our next meeting. The committee received an update on the school building referendum and legislative process, including information regarding future funding considerations tied to that referendum. We also discussed upcoming Board of Ed reporting materials that were shared earlier this evening from Mr. Macchio. And the committee reviewed sample questions for an interview that we held tonight. The new visitor management system, which was already discussed tonight, was also discussed. Mr. Kober did bring his item from the table regarding the subcommittee meeting access. First, we had some discussion by Ms. McGuire-Bruce about potential ways that we can ensure entry protocols for our meeting with the public. I want to be very clear with everybody. We all saw Ms. Brown coming to that meeting. We saw her enter from Mr. Macchio's window and ensured that she entered the building. So it might have appeared that nobody was there, nobody saw, but there was awareness that there was a visitor coming into the building and ensuring that she got in. And we are looking at developing some protocols, ensuring that the public knows how to access our building and what the protocol is. Mr. Kober also brought up a concern or an idea of ensuring that our subcommittees approve the meeting minutes, which is going to be another procedure that we ensure that we add as a standing agenda item in our subcommittee's approval of the last subcommittee's agenda items. We are looking at scheduling a joint leadership to continue our conversations about facility costs along with some other items. And our next Board of Ed leadership is Wednesday, June 3rd. Mr. Kober?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that overview, and you definitely touched on a couple of my points that I just kind of want to make sure that we reiterated for the public, kind of as I mentioned earlier with the textbook thing regarding practice changes. When we looked, and I believe it was last meeting, there was a public speaker that spoke about subcommittees and accesses. But like one of the things in general parliamentary procedures are bodies like approving their previous minutes. So we talked about how we used to approve minutes where between the staff and the committee chair would kind of get done and then posted. But the other 2 or 3 members or whoever sat in that subcommittee never actually reviewed them and participated in that approval process. So going forward, I'm glad we have a consensus, and subcommittees will now do that. It'll only take a few minutes, but just everybody has that opportunity to say, hey, this is what the subcommittee did last meeting. Yes, that's correct. Then we'll post that. I'm glad we had the conversation regarding, again, just building access. We talked about in leadership, obviously, is brought up last meeting, but just having the public be able to get into that meetings. We can call them public, but then we actually got to make sure we're just taking those assertive steps to make sure that they are public. So I'm glad we're having the ongoing bipartisan conversations regarding that. Obviously, you're kind of already hit on everything. The only thing I wanted to make sure at least I just mentioned publicly was one of the things that came up in that was that I had kind of brought up is just our general process of adding things to the agenda. By the time we get to the leadership meeting, there already is a draft agenda generated, whether it's by the superintendent or the board chair or whatever, but we have a draft of, hey, this is what the agenda is going to look like. So that gives us, as members of the leadership committee, the opportunity to say, hey, do we want to add this, take it away? We did talk about the policies, unwrapping that from doing them by slate to by policy. I'm glad we made that change. I did have, I guess, one concern that we had spoke about regarding that, there was something that I would have liked to add to an agenda in the future. I did for, I guess, parliamentary procedure. There was a second member, so there was like 2 of us in leadership that said, hey, we would like to see this item on a board meeting agenda. However, because it didn't have majority, because there's 4 of us, or however you want to say it, it didn't make it onto the agenda. So I just want to highlight sometimes when again the public sees stuff and people got to think outside the box and maybe speak about things a different way. Yes, there is a way to add to an agenda. You can bring it up in a meeting and try to get the 2/3 and go through all that. Obviously, we like to do things beforehand, so we'd rather have something on the actual agenda in the agenda packet, so that way board members have an opportunity to review it. It kind of ties into some of the conversations we had regarding subcommittees and what we delegate them and what we can't. And there are instances, and regarding the specific thing I wanted to bring up, where a committee of 3 essentially made a final decision on something that myself and a couple other board members would have liked the committee of a whole of the 9 of us to adjudicate. So I understand it didn't make it to the agenda. Obviously, the votes weren't there. But I feel like there are still going to be instances where things come up where even if we know the votes aren't there, maybe we can still find a way to discuss it publicly. And then again, ideally have it on the agenda so it comes up, and if the motion fails, so be it, but at least that happened candidly, publicly, and so forth. So those are kind of my thoughts. Obviously, conversations will be ongoing, but I just kind of wanted to make sure I shared that and summarized it.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. I'll just add my 2 cents on that. So yes, you did request an agenda item just for transparency for the public. It was to add the dress code policy that was proposed in policy subcommittee earlier this term. I think it's really important that we follow the importance of our subcommittees and what is the role and purpose of policy subcommittee. The committee reviewed that policy and through our established process determined not to bring it forth to the full board. A report on that was publicly made by Ms. Berculio. No comments were made. During this time, we had board member comments still on the agenda. No comments were made. And so I think there was ample time to discuss this publicly when there was a chance. I would share we did not add it to the agenda through leadership, but there's other ways to add items to the agenda that you could always explore. But I think in this, the purpose of our policy subcommittee is to bring policies that are viable for us to pass as a board. Knowing already that there is not support for a policy that also doesn't support our student outcomes is not something that we were willing to entertain or put on our agenda. Mr. Anderson.
On that note, I have some questions regarding committees. Why are the agenda packets not offered to the public?
So I will share that I definitely, when Ms. Brown was in the room, I shared with her a handout. I'm not sure if she got all of them. There typically are packets available, and the information is included in our minutes as far as what happens in the meeting.
No, the minutes include a brief description of what happened, but it doesn't include all of the data and all of the information that's in the packets. And if the only way to get a packet is to actually show up in person, that's not acceptable. There's plenty of people that can't get there or have problems getting in the building or intimidated to go down there. There should be a way for people to access the information. It's not secret.
Yep, I would just say I appreciate the comment that you're making. Mr. Kober has raised this issue of the packets of our subcommittees. We've discussed it. We can continue to kind of have conversation about what we do with our subcommittee meeting packets.
Well, without the full packets, the minutes are fairly useless. The only way to have any idea is to go to a meeting. However, without the agenda packets, you don't have all of the information you need to understand what's being talked about. As was mentioned, people have been having a hard time getting in there. You seem to dispute that, but I've talked to multiple people that have had problems getting in to the meetings. How many times in the past 6 months would you say that the committees have voted on something?
So I attend all committee meetings. There's votes that happen regularly in policy as far as what policies we're moving forward and how we make decisions on that. There's curriculum subcommittee votes that happen whenever we have to make changes to course requirements. So there's votes that are happening that are all recorded in the minutes.
More specifically, how many times have committees voted on behalf of the board, which they don't have the authority to do?
So I'm going to ask just that right now that we are in a leadership committee update part of our agenda, if you have some questions that we can definitely explore in leadership as far as
This is in relation to the leadership
committee. Correct, but you're asking specific questions about how our subcommittees function.
Mm-hmm.
And
the leadership committee is a subcommittee.
I understand what you're asking, Mr. Anderson, but I want to be able to be prepared to answer your questions. And instead of just giving you either answers that might not be totally valid or true, or I don't have the information for, I want to make sure that I'm able to
I'm not going to hold you to a
fill your-
specific. I'm not going to hold you to a specific number. I'm just asking kind of a general question. Go ahead.
So in policy, we have discussion around the policy, and then there is either consensus or not consensus to bring it to the full board. And that happens with every policy we've brought up to you. So the whole 9,000 series and then what we've done in the thousands. There's maybe not always a formal hand vote, if you will, because most of the time we're saying, is there consensus? And Mrs. Cushman, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're saying, is there consensus? And there's usually consensus. So we don't need to, just like here, necessarily do a roll call vote if there's consensus.
How many people are in the policy committee?
3, as there has been for the last however long policies. I mean, it's always been 3.
Right.
Yeah.
So if a member makes a motion, the other 2 members just say nothing. And it gets...
That's not true. There's discussion. Is that what you mean?
If a member makes a motion to bring something to the board,
Yeah. There's discussion. And then a vote.
and if somebody makes a motion and nobody seconds the motion...
That hasn't happened. So we've had full discussion on
Yeah.
all items
Oh, really?
that have been brought forth.
Really?
And
Okay.
if you're talking about policy subcommittee, I'm just going to do a point of order here because I want to be mindful of what our agenda is and what our business is. I also want to be mindful of time because if we go past 10 o'clock, which I think we're going to have to go past for adjournment anyways, we're going to have to make a motion to go past 10.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So in
No, I'm
small
going to
committees...
do a point of order for a moment because I just want to clarify the purpose of your comments and ensure that we can make a meaningful use of our time.
I'm trying to get clarification on why final votes are being made in committees when committees don't have the authorization to make final votes.
So if you're talking about our policy subcommittee, it's bound by our bylaws, which we just passed a new revision.
Yep.
To our understanding, there is no Connecticut general statute that says full board needs to approve all policies. For however long this board has been operating, we have used a subcommittee structure to run our policies through and make recommendations to the board to read for first readings and then second readings.
And you use
That has
Robert's
been
Rules of Order.
That has been previous past practice for all boards of ed. That is a continued practice that we were going to need to use with our policy subcommittee structure.
I understand. And you use Robert's Rules of Order to do that, correct?
Yes, we use Robert's Rules of Order in our meetings.
Okay. Under Robert's Rules of Order, 4921, no second is required. So if somebody makes a motion to add it, it should be added.
It's our procedures of our subcommittee of what policies and what curriculum, what textbooks will come to our meetings. We don't require the motion to make the recommendation of what policies come to our board. And if you would like to have further discussion around the regulations of how policies come to the board, we can discuss that at our next leadership meeting.
So
We're not going to have that as a public
told-
discussion now.
I was told to run things through the correct channels. There's correct procedures to do things. So I've done that. I did that through the policy committee. I also did that through the leadership committee. And where did I get me?
And I'm just going to tell you sometimes, Mr. Anderson, sometimes being in the minority is hard. That there are policies that you might want to see that unfortunately you don't have the support to bring forth. There's actions that you might want to take that unfortunately you don't have the majority to take forth. That is the structure that we run as a board. That is our subcommittee structure. And that is our structure here that we've been running for years and years and years as a board. So unfortunately, there is a minority-majority structure to our elections and to how our makeup is of our subcommittees. So I'm just going to now ask, as a point of order, your continued concerns about how policies are brought forth, we can discuss in leadership.
I thought you supported minorities.
We're gonna do a point of order and we're gonna continue this conversation in leadership. Thank you. All right, school updates. Ms. McGuire-Bruce.
All right. Thank you to Enfield Street School for hosting a wonderful Science of Learning night. It was a great evening for children and families to ask questions, explore, and be inquisitive while showcasing the amazing things happening at Enfield Street School. The night also ended, my children's favorite part, with a sweet note of ice cream, thanks to the PTO. The book fair was also going on. It was a great community event, so thank you. I know all the hard work that goes into that. Every teacher was there. with a smile on their face, helping the kids, and it really was just a wonderful event. So thank you. The Weekly Gazette continues to share upcoming events, many field trips, and even an author visit coming as the school year begins to wrap up. And be sure to support Enfield Street School at their upcoming fundraisers. They have this week, May 14th, Red Robin Night, and then June 7th, Smoothville. More information to come on that. Thank you.
Oops, sorry. June 9th at Henry Barnard is Family Music Night with Miss Renee, and the Cultural Arts Commission has announced the Enfield Summer Concert Series lineup for a list of performers, including a Fleetwood Mac tribute. That sounds awesome. On August 18th, go to EnfieldSummerConcertSeries.com for more information.
Ms. Gerard?
Thank you. So Parkman Literacy Night was a huge success. Thanks to all the staff for putting on a great event. Thank you also to the families that joined the event and shared this special night with the staff. They really enjoyed it. There are plenty events happening as we get closer to the end of the year, so please make sure to check out your Parent Square for all the updated information. The Enfield 5th grade dance and fun night is on May 29th at 6 p.m. Please make sure to register for this event. This is, I think I said it before, but it is a drop-off event. So parents, you can drop your kids off on this one. PTO's next meeting will be June 9th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. I have a little bit of an update, and I'll say it as fast as I can for Kite, but I really want to give it to them. So their meeting was held on May 6th. There was a review of the local community needs assessment data. This is something that they have done before. It is really supportive to our community, and it helps them guide what they're going to do throughout the year. So some key statistics discussed were about 1 in 3 families are Alice families. 1 in 3 households are single parent households. 1 in 10 households speak another language other than English at home. Education and community trends. So declining birth rates and school enrollment trends are discussed statewide and nationally. Housing costs are a major concern, with many renters spending over a third of income on housing. Referrals for special education services have increased over the past 10 years. Mental health concerns, growing mental health and addiction concerns within the community, increased demand for mental health services with long wait lists. Outside sectors for families and children were highlighted, and then additional concerns and ideas: improve coordination between service providers, create a centralized family resource hub, increase awareness and trust in community support resources, and expanding partnerships with community organization and special education providers. So their next steps are they're going to continue reviewing community comparison data and exploring better ways to identify root causes of community challenges. Their next meeting is on June 3rd at 5:30 p.m. at Asnuntuck. And do I need to make a motion to extend the meeting past 10 o'clock?
Yes.
Making a motion to extend the meeting past 10 o'clock.
And I'll second that. And just to clarify, so this is a motion to waive policy 9190 that requires us to adjourn at 10 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by Mr. Gerard, seconded by Mr. Kober. Some discussion there. Any other discussion? All in favor? Hand vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. Against? 2. No abstentions. 2 that talk a lot. Well, not 2, but 1 that talks a lot. Motion passes. All right. Did you want to continue, Ms. Gerard?
No, that was it for that.
All right. Other school updates? Mr. Kober.
I'll take this opportunity to talk. So a couple generic updates. Obviously, I just want to echo Parent Square for all notices. We are, now that it's in May, we are coming towards the end of the year, so a lot of schools are doing their field days coming up at the end of May and early June. Those are all going out in the school newsletters. Concurrently to that, a lot of schools are sending parent volunteer sign-up sheets. A lot of them may already be due back at those schools, so if you are a parent that's interested in volunteering for field day, if you have already turned in your form, great. If you haven't turned it in yet, please keep an eye out. Make sure that gets turned in. A lot of times there's usually more volunteers than there might be roles for parents to participate in field day. Of course, the superintendent already touched on in his report. There were some questions and concerns regarding the visitor management system implementation, and that certain parents, had they not been registered in the system, they would have had to come to school earlier to register or a day before to kind of register. That since we've indefinitely postponed that, parents need not worry about that. So we are still, again, looking for signups. Again, some of the other schools are doing field trips, end of year celebrations, stuff like that. So please keep an eye on your school newsletters and Parent Square. And then specific for my liaison role to the EFRC, just a reminder that the summer camp is open for registration. So that if you're interested in essentially a full day program, I think it runs approximately 8 to 3. Please enroll in that. And also the organization has got a new executive director. I think he sent something out to all the board. Mr. Kiner, I'm not sure if there's a relation, maybe there is, but he is now the executive director for that, and I'll reach out to him at some point to kind of connect more on a liaison role from the board to the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Any other school updates? I will finish out with Hazardville Memorial School. There is book fair happening and an upcoming second grade field trip. Also just want to thank all of our PTOs and families who supported Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. There were some really great celebrations that happened. Joint facilities.
Meeting scheduled for Thursday, May 14th at 6 o'clock.
Joint insurance. I know there is a meeting looking to be scheduled. Ms. Berculio, were you deferring to Steve on this one?
Yes. So we actually had an insurance meeting today related to stop loss. So we did bring up our desire for a joint insurance meeting again. And we are attempting at our Thursday meeting between the town managers and the superintendent to come up with a date for you.
Thank you. And if you could just please make sure that Ms. Berculio is included in that so she can try to make sure we have some type of
It
representation.
is a wonderful event.
Thank you. Joint security, I know Ms. Kiner's not here. I will defer to you, Mr. Kober.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll share, obviously our last meeting occurred, there was discussion on the visitor management system, as already discussed, so I won't reiterate that. The only other thing to keep an eye out for that came out of the last joint security meeting is there is a recommendation that's going to the town council. I believe there'll be a presentation at the end of May regarding a transportation safety issue. I don't know if the agenda's out yet, so I won't say exactly what it is, but there will be a public meeting by the town council by this vendor that will present their transportation safety proposal. And at that point, obviously, it'll be public. And the town council has the authority to decide whether we're going to adopt that or not. So keep an eye out for that. And the next joint security meeting right now is scheduled for Friday, June 9th at 9:30. And then I believe that committee is also one that won't meet over the summer unless business arises. So after June, I believe there might not be another meeting scheduled until September, but more to follow as it comes up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Pre-ref.
Oh, yay, me. Thank you, Steve, for doing a lot of the work for me, for your breakdown and better understanding of the pre-ref plan and how, as a committee, we have worked hard to plan for every building and their use. I also appreciate your passion about wanting to help better our schools as well as our town. Steps are moving forward for the grant applications and their completion, and all the different phases and steps that we have to take in order to complete these grants. If you have not done so, please watch the last meeting and all previous meetings on ETV YouTube channel. You can see meeting minutes and all documents on the district website. And please feel free to email myself, any committee member, or the email preref@enfieldschools.org with any questions or concerns that you may have. We are happy to bring them up during that meeting. The next meeting is May 20th at 6 p.m. at the town hall. I don't remember which room. I'm pretty sure it's a Skidco room, but it is a public meeting. You are welcome to come, and it usually is televised. Thank you.
I was just going to say, it's the Skidco room because that's what we can televise.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Gauss. All right, there is a need for an executive session tonight. Can I have a motion to move us to executive session for matters related to personnel, our superintendent's evaluation?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ard, seconded by Mr. Kober. Any discussion? Hand vote for this. Looks like all 8 of us are in favor. Before we adjourn for the public, because we will be going off camera and into executive session, I do just want to address, I believe there was an inappropriate to make a joke about minorities and questioning my support. If you're referencing you as a Republican in the minority, I would hope that our meetings demonstrate bipartisan efforts that we've accomplished. So we will move into executive session. Thank you.